I hear that open, and I'm almost like, that'll be my reaction when we get to 8 o'clock tomorrow night, and I'm like, oh yeah, the NBA Finals have yet to be decided. I'm like, oh, yeah, the NBA season's still going on.
You excited for Kyrie Irving?
I actually am excited, but I will admit the 8-day break has made me kind of lull into a sleep of like, oh, wait, aren't we already into, like, draft and offseason talk with the NBA?
Yeah, with both, things wrapping up so early, we've had about a week or so. Now, we can't go for the Celtics, right? I mean, I guess we got to root for the, former fighting Rick Carlisles. What do we do here?
I like Brad Stevens. I like Drew Holiday.
Okay.
That's
fine.
When you get swept, are you allowed to have Celtics venom?
This is a great point.
I guess in general,
if you'd have lost in Game 7, it would have been a lot different.
I guess in general, you have like Boston, New England hatred in this town, so that's fine and well. But I don't
remember
the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
I know. Remember a couple years ago, one of their teams won a championship, and there was a snot-nosed kid who was like 10 years old, and he's like, I'm 10 years old, and then he listed off all the championships that have been won since he's been born. I mean, we're talking Red Sox, we're talking Patriots. I think the Penguins got one at some point.
Bruins.
Yeah. Excuse me, Bruins. I mean, basically everyone had one in the entire city. So F that kid. How about that? Let's start there.
Yeah, there
to
we
hell
go.
with that 10 or 11-year-old kid.
F the 10-year-olds.
I need you to know pain. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Good Wednesday morning to everybody out there but that kid, it sounds like, from Andy Sweeney. That is Andy. I am Kevin Bowen. Corbin Liegenfelter.
Let's go, Corbin.
On the ones and twos. Mark Dykton out the rest of this week.
Well, he's driving to Florida for the 9th time this year.
Yeah.
It's only June. The guy's been to Florida 5 times.
I am so dumbfounded by when I came in here on a Monday and I was like, oh, did you have a good weekend? He's like, yeah, we went to Colorado. Yeah. I'm like, what? Like, who goes to Colorado for a weekend?
I swear,
I swear you did not say that on Friday when we walked out of the building.
No, yeah, like you were getting ready to mow the lawn over the weekend to write some Colts articles for 107.5 The Fan.
Frontier had a great deal, and we wanted to see Red Rocks. I'm like, oh, okay.
Not bad. Yeah. I swear the Daytons have United, Delta, American, Allegiant miles added up over the years.
And, here in the next month and a half or so, we will take, I think all three of us, Andy just did, and all three of us will take some time away before it really ramps up here in late July. And this week is the last time it ramps up for the Colts here in the spring offseason program. We will talk a lot about what I thought was a pretty busy and rather newsworthy day one of Colts minicamp. That wrapped up yesterday. Again, day 2 today, day 3 tomorrow. And then they're off for about a month and a half until they convene at Grand Park for training camp. Stephen Holder going to join us at 8, and quite a bit of news items from yesterday.
Well, I mean, there really are. I know you tweeted about this for me. I have yesterday, so I was sitting there and I saw your tweet. I went back, and we'll play the sound here at some point as we go this morning of Adam Schefter. And there's not much to it, but on his podcast on, ESPN, he talked about how the Colts at least did reach out to Justin Jefferson. Now, it's important to realize that it was never going to happen. I guess Minnesota was pretty damn unmoved, KB, on wanting to, entertain any trade offers. And so I don't know if Colts fans hear that and they think of what could have been, or, to me, I look at it and say Justin Jefferson was never going anywhere. I guess it is interesting, though. The Ballard and Company did their due diligence. And so, I think that's one thing. And then I think as well, I was listening. I'm glad we have Steven on today. He was on yesterday with Jake and Jimmy, I believe in the 2 o'clock hour. And, he really talked at length about the Pierce v. A.D. Mitchell battle at wide receiver. And I know you were out there yesterday. A.D. Mitchell caught a couple red zone touches. And, Pierce is having to, Alec Pierce is having to talk like a guy who knows for the first time in a couple years he's really in a fight on, probably playing time. Of course, he played damn near 100% of the snaps last year, which was silly, of course. So some Colts items as we're only into June. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, and again, no Michael Pittman yesterday. So that looks, and Shane Second said this, he will be out for precautionary reasons this entire week here of minicamp. So that means, and I think it's one of the bummers of the spring. For the most part, I think the Colts have been pretty healthy here in the spring. We'll get to, one injury item from yesterday of a player the staff really, really liked. But Pittman will have only practiced for about a day and a half with Anthony Richardson in the team setting. So I do think that is unfortunate. You have 9 opportunities here in OTAs and minicamp to practice in offense-defense settings. And I just think it's a bummer that your top wideout only gets, a day and a half with Richardson. And again, it's just super rare to see Pittman not participating, even if it is just, for a bruised knee. And I mean, he's out there standing on it and he's got a sleeve on it, but it doesn't look like it's anything, too alarming. But we are not used to Michael Pittman Jr. missing any time. He had a compartment leg syndrome, if I remember that correctly, back in the COVID year, his rookie season. And this has got to be one of the longer stretches he's ever missed. And hell, it's only 2 weeks. But it goes to show you the type of availability he still has. I kind of forgot Joe Flacco can sling it.
I know. How did you say it?
He was flinging it yesterday.
Did you like it?
Backup quarterbacks get in there and it's like, dink, a dunk.
Yeah,
we're
Flacco knows what he's doing, man.
Flacco's rifling it in there in a 7-on-7 drill in the red zone. So, obviously, Colts fans want to see no part of Joe Flacco under center this year. But I think if that does occur, I don't think the vertical passing game or even the velocity at which the ball is humming out of his right arm, I don't think that will be too different. So, again, we'll hit on a lot of that throughout the course of the show.
Yeah, he hasn't met with the media much here at all, has he? I'm trying to remember. I don't remember any. Maybe just one time for a short period of time. Like, I don't remember looking up Joe Flacco sound. Corbin, do you remember cutting in the wee hours of the morning at some point here at the fan any Flacco sound? I don't. I kind of want to hear from him.
He had the one big presser.
Yeah, right when he
got here.
Came here, he had the one presser, but that's all I.
And I actually thought he was pretty enlightening, in describing like hey, you're the backup. That means you mentor the young guy. He's like, well, yeah, but no. It was. I thought it was a really interesting answer from Flacco there. So yes, we'll hit on a lot of that yesterday. I did see the night ended early last night for one Angel Reese. Did you see the old heave-ho for her?
I did see it. She did the hand dismissal to the referee, and that was the end.
And then he waved back at her.
There was some waving going on,
but his wave mattered more than her wave, I guess.
What's the discourse? I will say this. I wrote this on our Google document, just, talking about the show. Yesterday it hit me. At about I don't know, it hit me at 4 o'clock, and I don't know why it hit me this late, but it hit me at 4 o'clock yesterday. Maybe JMV said something that triggered something in my mind. God bless, he does. That's a dangerous thing to say, but
sounds like a hell of a way to end your afternoon.
Yeah, but think of all of the infighting within sports and especially ESPN that the singular shove in the back to Caitlin Clark over the weekend has caused. People are still, poor Greeny after us went on. I was like, I guess I need to talk about this. Yeah. Everyone's still
need
talking.
The NBA Finals to start.
God bless, they do. But it's just the infighting of Stephen A. taking on everyone while saying he put everybody on, and them saying you could have all put us on 3 and 4 years ago about the WNBA, and all the WNBA people, all the we don't give a bleep about the WNBA people meeting and fighting over a shove in the back to Caitlin Clark. The WNBA could have envisioned many starts to their season, but the sound and discourse around their league being this, they could not have seen. And then ESPN back, Kendrick Perkins and Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith and Monica McNutt all going after each other in some sort of way. What a great story that I feel like has finally come to an end. Do you not feel that today on this Wednesday? We don't need to talk about it other than saying, hey, it happened, and look at all this bleep that it kind of caused in its wake.
Well, the Fever certainly hope that the story probably continues, so we don't have to talk about them getting back to work today. They will be back on the practice floor today, and again, they take on the winless Mystics coming up on Friday. That stat's kind of gone around a lot here, and again, the schedule's done them no favors here early in the season, but it is, and you do have the Olympic break. I feel like I see this graphic that floats around there. It's the whole league takes a month off for the Olympics coming up this year. But again, 11 games in 20 days, 29 games in 109 days the rest of the way. So certainly a very, very stark contrast in schedules here for the Fever. I will say, Andy, a week from Sunday, Angel Reese back inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Oh, you going to be there?
Nothing says Happy Father's Day like that, right?
You going to be there? A little VIP setting for the Bowen family? Oh, yeah, Father's Day is coming up in a couple weeks. My first Father's Day, Corbin. How about that?
Cannot say how that is where we'll be spending Father's Day. But nonetheless, it should be appointment television on that end.
I was going to ask you this. How big do you believe is the injury to Daniel Scott? Colts safety injured late last week, his Achilles. They announced that official yesterday. KB, I'm not sure if there had been murmurings of that. That's not what back-to-back years that he suffered a season-ending injury. If I'm not mistaken, last year was an knee and this year an Achilles. It just goes back to, and I know Steichen talked about it. We'll play these clips as we go on checkdowns this morning, but talked about the secondary, was asked about the secondary. We believe they still needed to bring a guy or guys in to that secondary. I'm talking corners, I'm talking safety as well, and now a young safety who probably, I don't know how much you think he factored in. He was at least going to get a shot at it, right? To be on the field. He is out now a second straight year. So, at this point, it's fair to ask, who knows if Daniel Scott gets on the field, right?
Can I
mean,
start
that's fair.
here and think this absolutely sucks for Daniel Scott? I
mean, it's 2 straight years, man.
I cannot think of worse injury luck to start an NFL career, to be frank. Last year, for those that missed it, he was a 5th-round pick out of Cal. He was an older draft pick, 24 years old. So the thought was, hey, there might not be this immense, crazy ceiling that we feel like with the 20 or 21-year-old draft picks, but we feel like he can come in and contribute in some capacity right away. Tears his ACL in May. Fast forward to this year, Chris Ballard has not held back in publicly speaking about Daniel Scott on many occasions. I think it's fair to say Daniel Scott is a reason, not the reason, but is a reason why they have not felt the immense amount of urgency to go out and make a veteran safety need. And last Friday, he tears his Achilles. Just horrific. I mean, doesn't make it out of May in either of these two off seasons. And really, you don't really ramp it up in May until like May 20th. And both years, he suffered obviously awful injuries that have ended his seasons before they've started. So I just want to start there because, again, I think it's just an absolutely awful story. On the other side of it, I've said to our Colts-related guests quite often, Andy, when we've had them on here over the past few weeks, few months, is safety a bigger need than corner? Because I think it is.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
And that I thought that before Daniel Scott's injury. I think it's a short-term need. I think it's a long-term need. And we talked a little bit about Julian Blackmon late last week. I don't think you can get past maybe 3 Colts before you have to name him as one of the most indispensable players on your football team. And this injury only adds to it. So, again, I think it just further adds to you can't lose Julian Blackmon. In my opinion, it should continue to put fuel onto the fire of go out there and find a veteran to, again, increase the floor of that room. And if you want to get technical for those that care about it, this does probably open up a 53-man roster spot. Now, how will they go about it? We'll obviously see how it plays out over the next couple of months.
Yeah, but that's a big deal at positions like tight end.
Yeah.
Where they carried, 5 last year
right,
at times?
And again, I think you would just have to add another safety. I don't think necessarily this means that you keep an extra tight end or something along those lines. But Nick Cross continues to have the lead on that safety spot next to Julian Blackmon. But, late last year, you passed up Rodney Thomas when Blackmon was out. You went with Ronnie Harrison Jr. to make a position switch in the biggest game of the season, and C.J. Stroud burnt you quite often in that game. So, again, just an absolute, of all the names for Shane Steichen to say yesterday, I mean, that one, you just feel for him because he's had no chance to really establish himself in the NFL at all. So, again, the Colts have had a healthy spring, but this is one that obviously does not fall in that category.
I would imagine this was not, he got injured when you guys were not allowed out there, media-wise,
right? We were out
right?
there on Thursday, and he was participating.
Okay.
So it
would have been Friday.
Yeah, Shane Steichen said that he suffered this injury last week. So, again, Nick Cross right next to Julian Blackmon, Rodney Thomas, and Ronnie Harrison Jr. would probably be kind of next up on that list. I will give a shout-out to the Warren Central product, Michael Tutsi. He's a guy that, maybe not be front of mind on a lot of rosters, but, he has caught my eye a bit here in the spring period. Of course, people will remember that name or certainly know that name from a high school ranking standpoint in Steve Tutsi, but Michael Tutsi's shown out a little bit here. So
he's caught your eye. I like that.
Yeah.
He's caught the bow and eye. That needs to be a thing you do for the website. I know you do enough, but what caught Kevin's eye? I kind of like that.
I do a bullet point in each notebook of players that have caught my eye each day. I do that during training camp. So if I was doing it here in the spring, I would say Michael Tutsi would be that. So That was probably the most, unfortunate news item, certainly from yesterday, but a lot on the Justin Jefferson interest front. We did have a brief, I'd call it 90-second to 2-minute Anthony Richardson injury scare. We can hit on that as well.
Oh, man, I saw that. I actually held my breath for a second when everyone said he was surrounded by trainers. I mean, that's the last thing you want to hear. The last guy, the last tweet. I mean, you guys all tweeted at the same time, so I saw 9 people on my timeline tweeting that out, scaring everybody.
It was
scaring everybody.
It was a bit scary
Stop
on
it.
our end as well. So fortunately, a little roller pad for the back, and he was good to go the rest of practice.
That's what you needed about a month and a half ago.
I did need that. Yes,
that's what I need right now.
Yes, I did not have the medical attention around me like
I don't
Anthony
think
Richardson does.
So it's going to be a busy Wednesday here on the Wake Up Call. Reminder: Stephen Holder from ESPN. He'll join us coming up at 8:00, and then. I'm interested in our conversation. Wes Carroll, the Evansville baseball coach.
Come on, Aces.
As they get ready for the best out of 3 now this weekend there in Knoxville, taking on the top team in the country in Tennessee. We'll get to that, our pop quiz as well. So we're busy today. And like KB said, Justin Jefferson and some Colts scuttlebutt, I guess, is the best way to say it. Plus, CJ Stroud said something about Colts fans we can get to as well. But coming up next, your morning check down, what did Shane Steichen say about Anthony Richardson yesterday? We'll let you hear that. It's a Wednesday. It's the wake-up call right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Query and Company.
items to get to as we recap day one of their mandatory minicamp. On the other side, we will certainly play a little audio of Shane Steichen fielding a "Did you have interest in trading for Justin Jefferson?" question. This time yesterday, I didn't have that on the old bingo card. So we'll do that on the other side as we lead off a morning check down.
Yeah, let's get going with those Colts. And you were out there yesterday tweeting out some stuff, mandatory mini camp. Let's start with Anthony Richardson. You said he had the injury scare, not even an injury, just some sort of scare where trainers obviously were looking at him. The rest of the day, seemingly he looked really good. Here's Shane Steichen talking about his second-year quarterback.
It's really excitement, coming off that shoulder injury and the way he's attacked his rehab and going into all these off-season program deals and practice, and just the way he's been in meetings around the building, around with the guys, taking ownership in everything he does, especially in walkthroughs, making sure we're wired up in there. He's been tremendous, so really looking forward to the season with him.
All right, so there's Steichen with Anthony Richardson. Now for A.D. Mitchell. Obviously, he met with the media after practice yesterday as well. This clip has worked its way around Twitter and social media. Here's Mitchell, the biggest adjustment thus far for him moving to the NFL.
The competition and just kind of the speed of everything. Everything is fast. This the league of the best, so everybody good. Everybody got something to them. And also everybody learns very fast. So one move I do on rep one, I can't do that move no more, like for the rest of the day. So yeah, it's been fun though, just competing with everybody, getting in with the vets, learning from the guys that I play opposite of and that I play with on the field. So it's been fun, man.
Yesterday was our third spring viewing at the 2024 Colts, and for the third straight time, A.D. Mitchell was there making some plays. It's not, 6-7 catches in a practice, but it's a couple of plays that certainly catch your eye. Without Michael Pittman Jr., no Alec Pierce yesterday. Josh Downs had a very active day with Anthony Richardson. So, again, plenty of Colts items we will get to here in a bit. There's no hotter team in baseball than the one and only Cincinnati Reds.
Well, see, Corbin doesn't know where the sounder is. I bet Mark hit it before he left.
Mark can be so childish with that sounder. I think it's fine that we don't play it. That's winners of 8 of 11.
Here
Frankie
come the
Montas
Reds.
pitching wonderful last night. Shout out to the Cubs. They did get a win over the White Sox. I don't know if that counts as a win. There were some shaky moments in that one. 7-6. Pirates won over the Dodgers, Guardians over the Royals, and the Indianapolis Indians continue their recent struggles here. They gave up 15 last night to Columbus.
15?
15,
I just
yes.
looked that up, during the break. 15 runs. What's going on?
15 runs.
It's all about the prospects at that level, though, KB.
And do they even do AAA prospects, or are the real prospects
aren't they? They're
anymore?
supposed to be in AA. The ones that get traded are the ones in AA. The ones that eventually make it up. Yeah. He was good. Rest in peace to Parnelli Jones, dying at the age of 90. Did you happen to see that yesterday? Former Indianapolis 500 champion, the oldest champion.
Yeah, you want to talk about it, just an absolute icon when it comes to a racing standpoint. I remember this stat, and I was reminded of it yesterday. Parnelli Jones is the only racer in the history of the 500 to lead 2 separate 500s, at least 400 miles in 2 separate races. He only won one of those 2. Had a car failure in the other one. But, yeah, on and off the track. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that revered among, when you think of one win, you're like, what,
Right.
There's obviously other winners that have won multiple races, but still, just kind of what he meant to people, again, on and off the track. He is certainly ranking high up there in the greatest drivers of all time there. So, yes, Parnelli Jones passing at the age of 90 yesterday.
Yeah, the only other thing I had was, again, nothing tonight. Still have NBA. That's going to be coming up tomorrow. Celtics and Mavericks, 8:30 on ABC. Have you seen a spread for this? I don't know if you're paying attention.
Yeah, 6.5, right?
6.5. Does that number seem right to you? I don't know. After the Pacers very well could have won so many of these games, I kind of feel like Luka and Kyrie might actually finish, whereas the Pacers didn't finish.
I find it interesting that spread, I think, is a big number for game one. But if you look at the series spread, it's really tightened.
It's pretty close,
It's not as overwhelming as a Boston favorite as it was when things opened up a little bit over a week ago. I ultimately think Boston will win the series because I think they just have a variety of guys that they can throw at Kyrie and Luka. And over the course of, 6-ish games, that can win out. But still, I think it's going to be a great series. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's the first time I saw since 2018 we've had members of the All-NBA first team in the finals, multiple members. So that would be Jason Tatum, of course, and Luka. And this stat was astonishing to me as well. Luka is trying to become the first scoring champ to win a title in a season since Shaq did it with the Lakers.
Wow, so it's been a kiss of death then.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to me that it's been that long since we have had that. So again, tomorrow night will be game one of the finals. The other things I want to throw out there, unfortunately, we did see the UND baseball season come to an end yesterday. We had their manager, Al Reddy, on last week. Great story of them even getting to the College World Series. But unfortunately, they lost down there in Cary, North Carolina, and eliminated. And did you see Novak Djokovic having to withdraw from the French Open?
I did, after winning on a torn meniscus, basically.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it must be nice to do that.
So are we done with the big three? Or is that premature?
Well, Novak thinks he can come back for the Olympics. He wants, obviously, a gold medal. I think it's one of the only things he's missing is winning in the Olympics. But as far as the dominance of the big three, I would say, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge tennis guy, but Novak was, he was number one in the world when he got injured, right? So I guess I'm not totally ready to write him off.
I
but
just
yeah.
mean injuries in general. What is he, 38? Years old, something like that.
He's pushing 40. Right?
Is it bad that my first thought was maybe this will be good for American men's tennis?
Yeah, I can't. Andy Roddick, what do you have for me? Yeah. Who's the guy? Who's the big tall guy? Josh, was it Isner? Isner, remember he played the match that was like 9 days?
I think he's toast.
Yeah, I think he might. Isner's toast? Okay.
I think you're on to was it Tommy Paul, Tanner Fritz? What was the kid? Shelton. Remember Ben Shelton? He's got some ties. His mom's from Carmel. Isn't that right?
What was the Tommy Paul guy? So the only reason that I know that name, and I have no problem admitting it. He dated for a while an IG model.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How'd you come across that?
Well, I followed the IG
model. That sounds like
model.
a Mark Dykton thing.
You know how I was on Instagram, You're in sports radio. You have a lot of downtime. That's how I knew. That's how I know who Tommy Paul. Otherwise, I would not know who that guy is. In fact, I would say 99% of the audience has no idea who that guy is.
Yes, I think that's an accurate number. 04. That's the last time it's been since you have not had Federer, Nadal, or the Joker in the final 8 at the French Open.
Reminder, coming up at 8 o'clock, Stephen Holder's going to join us on the other end. Some Colts conversation. Shane Steichen was asked about Justin Jefferson yesterday. Of course, Adam Schefter mentioning the Colts did at least call on the Vikings wide receiver. And a thought on the wide receiver battle between A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce. We'll do all of that next. It's a Wednesday. It's a wake-up call, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The IndyCar Series races at Road America Sunday at 3. Brought to you by the Indiana Union Construction Industry. Skilled on principle, union by choice. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Summer weather is finally here, and that means it's time for flip-flops, sandals, and your summer wardrobe. But for some people, it's the season of painful feet. Hi, this is Phoebe with the Good Feet Store, and to keep you out of pain and having fun this summer, you need some great support in all those shoes you're wearing. Our patented arch support system has helped countless people find relief from foot, knee, hip, and back pain. Like Dale. Listen to his real Good Feet story.
This planet is so incredibly beautiful that I can't get enough of it. I did 950 miles on the Pacific Crest Trail, and Good Feet was with me all the way. Your passion's important, but if your body aches and if your heel feels like you've got a nail stuck in it and won't come out, trust me, it's going to wear you down. The Good Feet store knew what they were talking about and took the time to really dial in what I needed. I hiked 84 miles in the Himalaya and to do it pain-free. You think I'm not grateful for Good Feet?
So stop in today for your free personalized fitting and test walk and see.
Stephen Holder coming up in a little over 20. You know, it's a popular kind of June, July idea, but I am pretty curious about this, and we're going to get into, I guess, kind of a branch off of this topic here in this segment, Andy, but something I want to ask Stephen is he was very early on the story of the Colts offering Danielle Hunter more money in free agency. Remember the, very accomplished pass rusher from the Vikings left Minnesota to sign with his hometown team in Houston in free agency. By all accounts, he took a discount with Houston. And basically what I want to ask Stephen is, like, let's play out that hypothetical. If the Colts had signed Danielle Hunter, walk me through the rest of the offseason.
Right, who's the odd man out? I mean, there's somebody who's the odd man out.
Pittman, Grover, Kenny Moore, Julian Blackmon, are they all back? Are two of them back? Who are the two? And then you don't probably draft Latu at 15, right?
You
so
don't.
Are you taking the star corner or the number one corner in the draft? Are you trading up for Brock Bout? That whole angle, I think, is, I don't know, it's a little cheap summer fodder, if you will. But I do think there was clearly some legit interest from the Colts in a bona fide pass rusher this offseason. And I'm just kind of curious how he thinks that would have played out. And I guess off of that, that's where yesterday's newsy item came. It was funny. I was listening to the Adam Schefter podcast yesterday and also had ESPN on in the background. And at the same time, I'm like, wait, did Adam Schefter say the Colts made a call on Justin Jefferson?
Well, did you know where it was coming from? The TV where Adam Schefter was talking to you, or your AirPods where you're listening to
I think I was so initially stunned by it.
Yeah.
I was literally confused. And usually I'm not one that sees these reports and immediately runs to Twitter with them, or I'm just,
right. But you got some good run out of it yesterday.
But I'm like, you know what? Justin Jefferson is arguably the best player in the NFL, not named Patrick Mahomes, and I felt like whatever. It was newsy, the fact that it was coming from Schefter. So, yes, I tweeted that out yesterday. What were your overall thoughts when you saw that news item?
Well, okay, so do you want to hear the sound, actually? You want to hear it? Now, this is about a minute long. We can wave Corbin off here because the gist of this is that teams reached out to the Minnesota Vikings. The Colts are not the only ones. The 49ers reached out. There are 3-4 teams that Schefter names, and basically the gist of it is he was never available. It's good that everybody called. All the teams should have called, but he was never going to actually be available. So here's that from the Schefter podcast from ESPN.
Never, ever got close. There were teams that reached out. Daniel, the New York Jets reached out about Justin Jefferson. Did you know that?
God, can you imagine Justin Jefferson and Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers? That would be unreal.
The Indianapolis Colts reached out about Justin Jefferson. You know that?
Wow. That'd be a great, Anthony Richardson would love a wide receiver like that in his wide receiving core.
The 49ers reached out about Justin Jefferson. You know that?
Okay, they're just getting greedy at this point, Adam. They certainly don't need another wide receiver.
Well, this was all before the draft. And every team that called the Vikings before the draft was told we're not trading him.
Yeah, so that's basically the gist of the conversation. Okay, so here's why I need your guidance, Kevin Bowen, on this Wednesday morning.
Okay.
I love the fact that they reached out. But I don't know if the Colts fan... It's the same thing with Danielle Hunter. And I know I sound like JMV here, but Ballard reaches out, but it doesn't happen. Does that make sense? It's great that they reached out, but, nothing happened from it. They still signed Pittman that I want to get to here in a second. So I think Colts fans while I like it, I think it actually kind of works against Ballard at times. Because Colts fans will say, of course we reached out, and of course we didn't get the player. And I think some of that frustration, I think a lot of that frustration goes back to the last few years in free agency, that the Colts get attached to a couple players, that they reached out, that they tried to make a deal with, and then it doesn't happen. And everyone says, well, of course it doesn't happen. And they blame Ballard, whether that's fair or unfair. The flip side is, Michael Pittman got done early, KB, and that's interesting on two respects. The Michael Pittman deal, if they reached out to Justin Jefferson or maybe another big name or two around the NFL, and they couldn't get that done. They then realize, hey, we need to get something done. Let's do it sooner, rather than later with Michael Pittman Jr. And this is where I think both you and I could be wrong on this. We thought, hey, wait to sign Pittman. But the more guys are being signed, the Pittman deal with each wide receiver contract is kind of looking better and better. At some point, he's going to be like the 15th, 16th highest paid wide receiver, and you're going to have actual great value there with Pittman. So that's what came to my mind. I'm interested in what you thought. I'm not totally surprised they reached out for Justin Jefferson. I'm also not surprised the Vikings said, no, hell no, we're going to give him $110 million guaranteed.
Well, my first thought was this. Making that call, my initial reaction was, is that like me calling Augusta National this morning?
Yeah.
Hey, you got any room for a single to get out later today?
Can I get there by 12:30? Yeah.
I prefer the twilight rate if I can make that. I figure, Ballard would love the twilight rate, right? You get a little cheaper deal.
I like that.
On that end of it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we'll see if I can get a hold of Augusta National's pro shop here and not, get turned away. That was kind of my initial, somewhat, I guess, humorous thought. In all seriousness, good on Chris Ballard. And I do think that the Colts, with Shane Steichen in the building, have a little bit of a different influence, spearheading some of this decision-making. They were a team that tried to make inroads in getting to the top 10 of the draft for a wideout.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people look at Chris Ballard, and again, go back to the Ed Carpenter clip from Carb Day. You're too critical on Ballard. So for me to say this is coming from someone that, as I think, been very fair and I guess critical of the Chris Ballard tenure when you look at the overall results. But I'm not one that looks at this and think, no, this isn't true. This is simply Ballard just making a call that he knows is not going to get anywhere down the road. Worthless, waste of time, et cetera, et cetera. I think when Tyreek Hill got traded from Kansas City, it surprised people. I think when A.J. Brown got traded from Tennessee, it surprised people.
Oh, sure.
You don't know how franchises truly view their operation. And I think wide receiver, that position is in a fascinating point in the NFL where look at the money Justin Jefferson just got. It's astonishing the amount of money some of these wideouts are making. And I think you look at how the drafts are playing out. All this wide receiver talent. Hell, A.D. Mitchell's the 11th wideout taken.
Yeah, I know.
You look at all this wideout talent. I'm not saying we're there yet, but we could be there in a few years, Andy, where some teams look at it and say, guys, I can't justify paying a wideout that money when I know the pass-happy college football that is today, they're just going to create a pool of guys that, again, might not be Justin Jefferson, of course, but still, if I'm getting it for 1/10 of the price and then I can kind of build elsewhere, I do think we could see teams react that way. So I am not one that looks at this and think it's cheap-ass Ballard, however you want to describe him as a pursuer of talent, and this is simply him making a call that he knows will eventually get to the national media, and that's all he cares about is saving his face. I don't think this is a Colts leak to Adam Schefter on that end. I think the fact that Schefter rattles off the amount of teams he does, it's more of a Vikings person.
Schefter knows stuff he doesn't even put out there.
Right.
He could tell you about probably 10 other players that the Colts have been at least involved with reaching out to that we don't know. That wouldn't be surprised by that.
And I want to go back to the Steichen element to this. Where did Steichen come from?
Yeah, and what did they do? Philadelphia.
They made the trade for A.J. Brown.
Yes, it's one of the better front offices in sports. They are aggressive. Every year they're aggressive.
Last 2 drafts. Steichen's first draft, of the 5 first picks they had, 4 of the 5 on offense. This past year, Latu, yes, the first pick, but then you go 3 straight offense after that.
Right.
I think there is more of an influence of Steichen came from an area in Philly where the cupboard was stocked. And I think there is an attempt here to try and do the same, whether it be, hey, let's call, it's probably a long shot, but let's just see what the temperature is on Justin Jefferson. And then similar to the draft, okay, can we get into the top 10? Can you make a move that is there? So I don't think this is simply just, there's no shot at it. It's Kevin Bowen calling Augusta National, something like that. No, I think there is more of a, all right, we do need to make sure our young quarterback feels as comfortable as possible. Now, where I would counter and disagree a little bit with the Colts is I still would like to see some move play out. That it's not Jefferson.
It's all or nothing, right?
Right, but there is a little bit more that you're going into the offseason and have a little bit more help. And who knows, maybe A.D. Mitchell will be that from day one. But I go back to Ballard's season-ending presser, Andy, when he did say, the fact that you have a rookie contract quarterback, it opens you up financially. It opens you up to even make this sort of call, to even see if there's anything out there on the Vikings end of it. Again, Josh Allen gets Stephon Diggs in year 2? Tua gets Tyreek Hill on his rookie deal. Jalen Hurts got A.J. Brown on his rookie deal. All of that.
Look what the 49ers are doing.
Sure.
They can go give McCaffrey more money because Brock Purdy's making nothing right now.
And that's on a totally different end of the spectrum because, again, Purdy, like you said, makes absolutely nothing. So, I'm not one that just kind of looks at it and says, Ballard's an idiot, blah, blah, blah. He's just making this call to simply save face. I don't look at it there. I think another fascinating element to all of this, Andy, is what would the trade look like?
Oh, I just can't. I mean, that's kind of where my mind went. Can you imagine the guy that loves draft assets more than anybody, Chris Ballard, having to give up how many years of draft assets and then pay? Again, Justin Jefferson would make $110 million guaranteed here.
Now, annually, Justin Jefferson, I believe annually is only making $12 million more than Michael Pittman Jr. And I say only. The Colts are sitting on $26 million right now. So I don't think financially, yes, the guarantee is a huge number, but the annual average is not going to blow you away. So let's say the Colts give the finances to Jefferson. How about the trade compensation? When Tyreek Hill was traded to Miami, Andy, 3 years older than Justin Jefferson, to be fair, that trade was a first rounder.
Yep.
A second rounder.
Yep.
2 fourths and a 6.
I mean, I think you're probably sitting somewhere similar. Are you not with Justin Jefferson?
Let's maybe take a 4th and put it into a 3rd.
Sure.
Because Tyreek Hill, 3 years older than Jefferson.
Well, so and Jefferson has no issues. Tyreek Hill's had issues since he's been in the NFL. I mean, I'm saying if we're splitting hairs, to me, Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill are both great players. And Justin Jefferson, I don't have to worry about him getting in trouble off the field. I don't.
Right. And some might counter with Tyreek and say he brings more explosive nature than Jefferson. So, okay, let's bump the 2 fourths to 2 thirds. Okay. So that would be a first, a second, 2 thirds, and a 6th. Okay. Are you trading for Justin Jefferson and giving up Laiatu Latu, A.D. Mitchell, Matt Gonzalez, Jalen Simpson, and a 2025 third-round pick? Are you giving up those 4 names, that future third-round pick, and then also putting $12 million on top of the Michael Pittman deal?
I am probably, honestly, as much as I like Justin Jefferson, right now I don't feel like I am, hey, go pay my wide receiver as much as a franchise quarterback. I'm probably not there. Is that wrong of me? I would probably be the guy that you're there. I figured you probably would be. Well, let me ask you this. It's a Friday night. It's 7 o'clock at night. I don't know, whatever the Bowens are doing Friday night at 7 o'clock at night, and that ding comes through.
Will go to bed in the next hour.
The text comes through, the tweets come through. However you are, I don't know if you see it on Twitter. However you digest this information, that a deal is in place to send Justin Jefferson to the Indianapolis Colts. Friday at 7:30 at night. Honey, whatever we were gonna do, we're not gonna do any longer. I mean, that changes your night, does it not?
Oh,
it reminds you of the Andrew Luck trade was at night. I remember that. That was on a weekend night.
Well, the Andrew Luck retirement.
The retirement. Sorry, the retirement. Yeah.
I mean, it would be one of the biggest deals in franchise history. I mean, right up there with Eric Dickerson. And, I mean, it would be certainly that.
I guess picks are overrated to a certain extent. I don't know, man. Okay, let me sit back. Would I do it? Probably not. But if the Colts did it, would I praise it? I would think so, because it would be the most unlike Ballard thing that he could ever do, right? And he would be praised as much as he's ever been praised here in 7+ seasons.
To me, more than that, more than the Ballard dynamic, it is simply telling your young rookie quarterback, we are going to try and do everything we can so that you feel supported. And honestly, that was one of the biggest reasons why I thought the Pascal Siakam trade was a good thing, even though I was lukewarm on it overall.
Right, it's what it proved.
One of the pros that I laid out was like, hey, you're telling Tyrese Halliburton, look what we're doing.
Yeah, we're going to put another max player. Right.
And so you look at Anthony Richardson's first offseason. He watched Jonathan Taylor contract drama play out. Not a great first impression on Anthony Richardson, whether it's, the Colts' fault, Taylor's fault, whoever, wherever you want to lay blame. It's not great. So as Anthony Richardson is watching C.J. Stroud get Stephon Diggs, he's sitting there a little bit and thinking to myself, okay, where am I at? Where's the love for me coming here? And obviously, this did not play out, clearly. But I think it is important to try and do something, maybe not at this magnitude, because, again, finances are going to get tougher moving forward, but to try and do this early on in the rookie contract. And I am curious now moving forward. Finances, again, they are tighter. I mean, you gave all these, 2 and 3 year extensions. So and let's not even say Jefferson. Let's insert whatever, Brandon Ayuk or whoever is on that second tier financially. It's going to be tough to make a move for those guys.
Well, this was the offseason where if you were going to make that move, this would have been it.
Because,
right?
again,
I mean, don't you feel that way?
All these guys for multiple years. Now, maybe when, you get 2 or 3 years down the road, Pittman's a free agent, maybe you can do something different. But at that point, you're starting to think about Richardson's second contract there. So, it just, again, I didn't have Shane Steichen fielding Justin Jefferson questions yesterday. Should we play that Steichen audio?
Let's play. It's only 7 seconds long. It's a Shane Steichen clip, so it's
Shout
not 60 seconds.
Joel A. Erickson firing off the Justin Jefferson question to Shane Steichen.
He's a good player. I brought probably 31 other teams before I tried to trade for Justin Jefferson, but I got no comment on that. Yeah.
LA, he's a great player. Yeah, he is pretty good. What if they did that? It's 8 o'clock at night. We all mobilize.
Hey, Augusta,
KB
you
has to go live.
You guys got any room for a single? Be happy to join up with any group. 3:30. I was thinking Twilight, right?
I'm sure that's what the guys want you to do, is to join up while they're having their magical moment with their buddies at Augusta National.
Think I can
That's
make
exactly
that work?
what they want.
I'd be happy to play with anybody, sure.
Now, quickly, we're up against it here. Stephen Holder going to join us in about 7 minutes. Anthony Richardson, a short injury scare. What exactly happened out there yesterday?
He rolls out to his left, throws the ball across his body, an 11-on-11 drill to Josh Downs, who was a frequent receiver of Richardson throws yesterday. And then all of a sudden, as everybody's kind of scurrying back to the huddle, Richardson kind of makes his way to the sideline and takes a knee, and it kind of gets in one of those squatting positions, almost kind of a catcher behind the plate.
Oh yeah.
And a couple members of the training staff, athletic training staff, come over and take a look at him, and you could. I mean, certainly this happens, a handful of times of practice. Various guys this happens to, but certainly when it's your franchise quarterback, you take note of it. And, he gets up after about a minute and starts to kind of, looks like he's stretching out his back. Eventually makes his way over to the side practice field. They get out the roller thing, and he kind of rolls on that with his lower back area. So does that for about a minute or so. Ironically, this happened right as he was taking his final 11-on-11 rep of that period. So it's not like he missed any team action. They were breaking for special teams right after that anyway. So he ended up not missing any time. He got back, did his little individual drills, and then threw in the 7-on-7 period. I think he was 2 of 6 in the 7-on-7 after that, maybe 2 of 3 in the final 11-on-11, if I'm remembering correctly. This is how I knew he was fully healthy after that. Sam Ellinger gets picked by number 58, Austin something or other.
Okay.
And Austin's going down the sideline. Defensive guys are celebrating with him, sprint down the sidelines, and Richardson decides to take off in a dead sprint after him. To try
to celebrate or to stop the celebration?
To try and pseudo-tackle him.
Oh, to tackle him.
Yes,
Gotcha.
Now, he did not make a tackle attempt, but when I see him taking off in a dead sprint, I'm
you feel pretty good.
Your body's 22, and no one else here feels like you.
My body's getting closer to 42, so good stuff there. Yeah, I saw those tweets coming from you and others yesterday. I was a little scared.
Averted, didn't miss any team rep.
Crisis
I think
averted.
Anything Richardson related, you have to know.
We'll keep the Colts conversation going. ESPN Stephen Holder joins us next. 8 o'clock hour coming up. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with
Good amount of Colts discussion here on this Wednesday. It's the final stretch run here of the offseason program. Mandatory minicamp day 1 concluded yesterday. Day 2 today and day 3 tomorrow before about a month and a half off until training camp. Stephen Holder, we're very grateful for his time here in the spring. I haven't had him on every week. Want to give Stephen a little bit of a break because we appreciate all of his time. But again, newsy Tuesday for the Colts, so felt like we need to have Stephen back on. Stephen, I wanted to start just in general of, you had it earlier in the offseason about how much money the Colts offered Danielle Hunter, more for him than the Texans did. Ultimately, he chose the hometown Texans. You hear the report yesterday, the Colts make a call for Justin Jefferson. You hear Chris Ballard mention, hey, we tried to, or you thought about trading up into the top 10 of the draft. Well, what does all of that tell you, if anything, about just the Colts and their overall approach?
Well, first, I would love to know, just for kicks, I would love to know what they said to the Vikings. Like, did they say, hey, I've got an extra coupon for Crew Car Wash, and I was just wondering if you were interested.
Yeah, naming rights to the Salesforce Tower whenever that becomes up again.
Right. I mean, you know how Chris Ballard is like, oh, somebody's available. Well, let's see. So I don't know if he made a serious offer. But that being said, the point is no less, I think, valid. They definitely seem to be a team that understands they are within a window. And when I say window, I don't necessarily mean that to be championship window. I mean, that's to be determined. But I think there's an opportunity. Right? There's two things. Number one, opportunity and a window, veteran team. They brought everybody back. That has to raise the expectations. I think that is unquestionable. They need to be in the playoffs this year. But beyond that, there's another reality I think that it speaks to, which is the fact that this is an AFC conference right now where you better get with the program. And I think Chris Ballard understands that. And look, this is going to be his, 8th season? Am I right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, there's an understanding there. I don't know that it's necessarily, an increased amount of pressure on him per se, but there is certainly pressure on him. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I think Anthony Richardson has bought him time and all that. That's all true. But they got to have the arrow pointing in the right direction here, and it needs to be like a very clear trajectory. This can't be, hey, there might be something here. I think they need to take a step. And he understands that. Whether he admits to it or not, I think there's an understanding of that. And they also see that this team has the opportunity because there is talent. They do have a good coach. They do have a quarterback with potential. I mean, all those things are true, and they should act like it.
ESPN Colts reporter Stephen Holder joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline on the Fan on this Wednesday. Well, let's play this out, Stephen. I was kind of joking with KB last segment. You start to get news if this ever happened. I mean, can we imagine if they actually did trade for Justin Jefferson and Ballard, who loves his draft capital, gives up, a first rounder, a second rounder, a third rounder, a couple fifth rounders, whatever it may be, and then they give him $110 million in guaranteed money? I mean, it would be the most un-Ballard-like thing. It would be an amazing story, and it would show, hey, Anthony Richardson, we care about you, and we care about you in this rookie contract. What do you make of the Justin Jefferson conversation and play it out if it would have happened? It would have been one of the more amazing moves we would have seen the last couple of years in the NFL.
Oh, well, I think it goes to the situation they were in. Okay, they had, we talked earlier in the spring about all the free agents, in-house free agents, who were available. So, they had, what was that? Well over $100 million of contracts where they had that cap space available, or just cash in general, right? And so I think that was a unique opportunity. They probably knew that was never going to happen, right? But I think you shoot your shot. And whether there's two problems there, right? You have to, can you agree to the terms with Minnesota, who was likely never going to trade him? But whatever, just play it out, right? There's that. And then there's also, can you agree to a new deal with him? Because Justin Jefferson was never getting traded without a new contract, obviously, because why would he go somewhere else, agree to go somewhere else unless he was getting the deal that he wanted. So those are two massive obstacles that you would have to scale to actually pull it off. But I think, as I was just kind of saying, I really think it stems from the fact that they had a unique situation of all these players coming out of contract. It would likely have meant most of those guys weren't coming back. You know, just in this very, very, very hypothetical situation, you know, you don't get to re-sign all of those guys. You get Justin Jefferson. And so that would have been a pretty big shift in philosophy, in direction, and all those things. So it would have been seismic for sure.
Steven, Justin Jefferson's a name that we know they at least called on. L'Jarius Sneed, the corner who, of course, went to the Tennessee Titans from the Chiefs, and Danielle Hunter. Those are at least three names of big money type guys that Ballard looked at, was in some sort of conversation with, and then they went out and they brought a lot of guys back, shorter contracts, but contracts nonetheless. Maybe for the next couple years, was this the offseason? If they were going to actually go out and make a big move, it would have happened. Do they have room to do that here in the next year or two? Because I just don't think they do.
I think there's room for maybe isolated moves. I don't think you're going to see a flurry of big moves, right? You can always create space to make, to make a one-off move. That is definitely doable. But whether we see multiple efforts to acquire big dollar players, I don't know about that. Because I do think, signing on for 3 years with the players that they did, it kind of precludes you from doing that. And also, by the way, I don't know that we have established this, but the Justin Jefferson inquiry, I assume, happened before they re-signed Michael Pittman even, right? So that would have, I presume, that would have meant that they went elsewhere there, right? So, I mean, it would have had a very different look to this team. I think it was a pivotal offseason because of the contract situations, the contractual situations with some of their players. So yes, but going forward to your question, yeah, they can still make some things happen. They could do something right now if they wanted to, if there was someone worthy of it, So there's always the opportunity, but I think it just depends on the situation. I think how this year goes will obviously impact how they operate in years to come. They can still get some things done, but I don't think it's going to be any sort of seismic effort necessarily.
Again, Stephen Holder with us here. ESPN is latest, I believe his latest on the defensive line, and I guess kind of playing off of that question, Stephen, and I know we're kind of hitting on a lot of hypotheticals here. I do want to transition to minicamp in just a second, but one more on that front. Again, you had the Danielle Hunter report from earlier in the offseason of the Colts offering him more money. Maybe the Texans offered more guaranteed money. I kind of forget the exact details of that. He's a hometown guy with Houston, so he goes to Texans. Let's play out the Hunter hypothetical. Let's say he's here. What would be the domino effect, you think, of the rest of the offseason? Is it, Pittman, Grover, Kenny Moore, Julian Blackmon, two of those three? Who would be the two? Or I should say two of those four, three of those four. Obviously, a lot to it. Pick 15 probably doesn't happen under that. I'm asking you to put on a June and July hypothetical hat, so I apologize. But if you don't mind, what do you think the domino effect would have been off of that?
No, that's fine. So I can tell you that they continued the conversations with Hunter in the hours even after Pittman had signed. If I recall, that Monday of the negotiating period, I think they agreed to terms with Pittman. If I have my details straight, the conversations with Hunter continued at least until that evening, if not the next morning. I could be a little off on that, but I definitely remember it being after. So my point is, Pittman was kind of already in the fold. The question then becomes, what becomes of all those other defensive players that they committed to? It would have had certainly a ripple effect on some or all of those guys, like the likes of Grover Stewart, for example, Kenny Moore, guys like that. It likely could have come at their expense. There's no doubt about that. I mean, they were not going to commit to $40 million plus of guaranteed money I'm assuming it was in that range just because of what the Texans offered. They would not have tied themselves up with that kind of guaranteed money into one guy and then operated the exact same way with everyone else. It wasn't going to happen. There's so many slices to the pie, and Hunter would have gotten multiple slices. That's just how it went, right? So I think we all can kind of understand that. What it tells me is that they see him or saw him as a really unique and special player, because that's not how the Colts tend to operate. And so the fact that they were willing to go all in on a guy, it has to say a lot about that guy. And that says that they were, well, actually I can tell you this, they were sort of targeting him well before the NFL Combine, even when they were kind of making free agent plans and a strategy about free agency. Danielle Hunter was on that list well in advance of the start of the free agency period. So that was definitely something they had targeted for quite some time.
Shifting gears here to minicamp, Stephen, we've watched the Colts now outside of rookie minicamp. We've watched them 3 times here in the offseason, and I would say every single day, A.D. Mitchell has made 1 to 2 plays of note. Impressive yesterday. It was a beautiful fade touchdown catch separating from Jalen Jones. It made that play. He had a deep ball the other day from Anthony Richardson in a 7-on-7 drill. To me, when you watch these rookies, it's about stringing them together. It's about consistency. And again, we've seen 3 of 7 of the 8 days. It's not like we've been out there every single day, but it certainly caught my eye. What have you witnessed in the 21-year-old rookie out of Texas?
I love it. It's undeniable. There's no question about it. It does not guarantee that this will happen in September. Okay. Like, I know people sometimes get a little bitter about the reports that they get out of the offseason when they don't translate, right? No one's promising you they're going to translate. It's all we have, though. So here is I'll repeat what I said among ourselves yesterday in the media room. I'll repeat it here because I think it's worth repeating. I like Alec Pierce, okay? I do. I think Alec Pierce has untapped potential, some of which is on him, some of which is on quarterback/coaching team, right? However, we have not come away from practices and talked about Alec Pierce the way we talked about A.D. Mitchell the last couple of practices. That has never happened. We've never walked away from practice and said, man, Alec Pierce was unbelievable today. I've never had that conversation. So my point to you is already in a very short period of time since arriving, probably not even really having command of the offense, A.D. Mitchell's out there making plays in some cases against the first defense and making spectacular plays in some instances. So that has to count. And I do think the most realistic picture you get from off-season practices is in the passing game.
Right.
And obviously, pass defense. That's the most realistic picture you get. You're not getting a realistic picture from anybody in the front 7, or certainly at least linemen, right? Offensive linemen, defensive linemen. That is not a realistic picture. They don't have a single pad on. They're not hitting each other, for the most part. So you can't take much away from that. They're just learning their steps and understanding how to work together and combination blocks, et cetera. Timing, et cetera. But when you're talking about, mano-a-mano, wide receivers against defensive backs, that's competition. That's like legit competition. And A.D. Mitchell has a lot of wins right now. So I think it's perfectly reasonable to talk about it and to be optimistic about what we're seeing. I also think that a couple things are really good for A.D. Mitchell, and I think bode well for him. Shane Steichen is great at taking what a player does well and maximizing that. And so what has he told us about A.D. Mitchell? He has said that he's really explosive at the top of his routes. What are we seeing, Kevin? We saw him make that move, and on the fade, he had, I don't think it was a double move. I think it was just that one move, but right, he did explode out of that break, right? Sure. And went and got that ball and created a huge amount of separation there. And then just the athleticism too, like the touchdown he caught in the back of the end zone. I think it was a little bit more of a scramble play where Richardson got flushed out of the pocket. He stayed alive. He goes up and snatches the ball out of the air, taps both of his feet, gets them both in. He did that in college. We saw him do those things. He made very difficult catches, and I just think he's exactly what they need right now. Michael Pittman, it's interesting. Michael Pittman has not been the most productive guy in the red zone. You know, have you noticed? Like, he doesn't score a ton of touchdowns. This is not a knock. It is what it is, right? Maybe it's because of Taylor the last few years. I don't know. But A.D. Mitchell, it seems, at least just from a handful of practices, is a guy who can be very serviceable for them in the red zone, I think. So I think he is a great addition, and we'll see. It's about consistency, as you said. Sorry for the long answer, but I'm very intrigued by what I see, and I see no reason to kind of downplay it. I think the guy might be legit.
ESPN Colts reporter Stephen Holder with us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Stephen, that's exactly what I was going to ask you, because yesterday I'm listening to you with Jake and Jimmy, and I mean, you very much put out there, hey, one thing to watch here is A.D. Mitchell versus Alec Pierce. And it sounds like yesterday, Alec Pierce, like he knows that A.D. Mitchell is coming for his snaps. Like he realizes that you hope it can make him better, but he knows what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how Alec Pierce responds, because that's what this is going to be. We're going to learn a lot about this young man. And one thing I like about Alec Pierce is that he is kind of a free spirit. He doesn't get riled up about things if he doesn't get the ball. He's always been great about that. You know, here he is out here last year playing 60, 70 snaps and getting a couple of targets, which is just
it's unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. But never got upset about it, at least publicly, and always said the right things. I admire that about him. However, here's the thing. I think we need to see a little bit of the fire now, because this is a different situation. Now the question is not, am I going to get the ball? The question is, all right, how much am I going to play? So I don't mind if we see a little bit of dog from Alec Pierce now. In fact, that might be what he needs to show. So, and I think yesterday was maybe a slight indication of what we might see or hear from him, because I do think it wasn't the words that he said necessarily, but I think that there was a seriousness about Alec Pierce, which is what I was saying to the midday guys yesterday. I thought the tone of what he was saying to me was a little bit different, and maybe it's because I know him, and we do spend a lot of time with Alec Pierce because he's always in the locker room and available, very affable guy. So you get to know guys. And I saw and heard a little bit of a different tone from him. I think that's a positive thing, because that's what it's going to take. This is going to be a fight. He's going to have to go out there and fight. They might both play. They will both play. Okay, Mitchell, there's no doubt about it that there are degrees to that, you know, and they're going to have to earn it, you know, in terms of who plays more and in what situations.
And Stephen Holder, ESPN, with us here in the Payless Liquors hotline. Stephen, last one for me. Again, the big and just super unfortunate news from yesterday was Daniel Scott tearing his Achilles. That means the second straight year his season ends in the month of May. A guy that is not household to a large majority of Colts fans, but Chris Ballard has gone out of his way to mention him on several occasions when addressing the safety position here this offseason. What, if any, impact do you think this has on a veteran safety move before training camp starts here in about a month and a half?
Well, I mean, just based upon Ballard's sort of, I don't want to say like his love for him, but certainly he was factoring him into their plans. So I have to assume that he was at minimum a key piece of their depth. So I think that's where it hurts them right now. They could go out tomorrow and they could line up and play safety and be probably fine. Probably. Assuming Nick Cross. I think Nick Cross is the guy, right? I mean, it's up to him to screw this up, in my opinion. I think Rodney Thomas, he had a lot of opportunity last year, and I think we were all kind of underwhelmed. I think the Colts were underwhelmed. So really this is about Nick Cross, and this is his opportunity. So they could line up tomorrow, and they could play with Nick Cross and Julian Blackmon, and we would all probably sleep relatively fine, right? The question is, then what if someone gets hurt? And that's where I think they have an issue right now. Number one, to your question about veteran safety, you could potentially upgrade. And And they seem to have had a more aggressive mindset this offseason. So, that would track if they did do it. And then there's just, like I said, the depth for me is the issue. Don't leave things to chance. If you do think you are in a window, then I think, as I said earlier, they seem to be acting like it. Well, here's another opportunity or another, I guess, crossroads where they have to decide what they're going to be and how they're going to operate on a particular front. So I'm interested to see what happens. I still haven't ruled out, some kind of, business at cornerback. I don't know that it would be significant, but that's always that's still at least on the back burner, I guess. Let's put it that way. So we'll see what happens there. I do think it has to at least be on the table, though, in terms of a depth signing at safety.
Again, day 2 of Colts minicamp here coming up this afternoon. They'll conclude things tomorrow, and then a much-deserved month and a half off for the Colts before training camp commences. Stephen, as always, thank you. I hope, and we always, again, appreciate your Wednesday mornings with us, but we'll likely not talk to you for several weeks after this, so enjoy a little bit of quiet time.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Stephen Holder, Payless Liquors Hotline.
Just to follow up, because I wanted to talk about this, and I heard Stephen yesterday talk with Jake and Jimmy. It's what got me thinking about it. The A.D. Mitchell versus Alec Pierce discussion is a great one. And we have talked about, injuries and, Daniel Scott goes down last week and the scare with Anthony Richardson. And, even if we bring up a Daniil Hunter or a Justin Jefferson, some fans don't like it because they didn't get those players, right? Jefferson signs with the Vikings, and we know the Texans got Hunter and everything else. And the reason I bring this up is this is a really good thing that is happening. Alec Pierce needs to be pushed. The wide receiver room needs, quite frankly, more talent. Go look at some of the names that were playing down the stretch for the Colts, okay? And when you had an injury, when you had Michael Pittman go out in that crucial game against Atlanta in the last, month of the season, KB, I mean, you look like an offense. And listen, I know it was Gardner Minshew, but you look like an offense that just couldn't do anything. And what it tells me, and this happens often, because I think people like Alec Pierce and they want to give him a chance. He was a high draft pick. You don't want to give up on the guy because he was a rookie and then he was playing with a new coach, a new system, and Gardner Minshew, who could not get the ball to him down the field. But he kind of became this one-trick pony, and I think we got stuck in this, KB, when we'd have Steven on or anybody else on with the Colts. Nobody would say that Alec Pierce was making plays, but everyone had the same kind of analysis that they can't get the ball to Pierce, right? Like, it wasn't really his fault. It was the quarterback's fault. It was this or that. And I'm not even saying that was totally wrong, but the Colts said, hey, we can't have that conversation. We got to have more talent. And it's almost as if A.D. Mitchell starts to put on a show in practices, if fans start to see him at training camp, you get to the preseason and he makes a couple of those plays early in the season, makes a couple of those plays that's like, wow, we haven't seen a guy do that in a number of years in a Colts uniform. It makes me wonder, maybe not the validity, but how much we all kind of made the excuses for Alec Pierce. And if A.D. Mitchell just straight up, they draft him, and if he wins this job, to me it's showing actions speak louder than words sometimes. And that's kind of where I am with Alec Pierce. I mean, he's got one game that he has 100 yards in 2 seasons. I mean, you know his stats. He's 135th in the league in catches.
Yeah, we
this
talked
past
about it.
season. So, we've never been harsh on Pierce. Does that make sense? He hasn't given you numbers, but we haven't been harsh on him because we've said, these other factors matter more than you simply making plays. A.D. Mitchell may be a guy that's like, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. You want it to be AR. I am going to go out, and I'm going to make those plays.
Yeah, to be fair, I think the plays that A.D. Mitchell has made in the spring, they are down-the-field plays from Anthony Richardson. Down-the-field plays with Gardner Minshew and Matt Ryan.
They just don't happen. I know.
So I do think there is some context with Pierce. Having said that, it still is alarming that the guy plays the most snaps of any wideout in the NFL and has, 30-some catches last year? It's crazy when you look at the snap and the catches off of that. Again, for what it's worth, Pierce related. Mentioned yesterday he's put on a little bit of weight, nothing crazy, about 5 pounds. He said that was kind of an order from the staff of they want to improve his play strength. And I think when you watch Pierce at times, there are moments where he is not creating enough separation on the shorter to intermediate routes. Does a little bit of weight improve that at all? Things are too crowded around Pierce on the short and intermediate stuff. It's just hard to deliver him the ball where you feel like he's got a window to make a catch there. And I mentioned this earlier in the spring. He didn't practice yesterday, but in the first 2 OTA days, I did notice Pierce was taking special teams reps.
Okay.
Not something we've seen from him this spring. And if you are the third wideout, I should say the third outside wideout, Josh Downs, of course, is certainly going to be one of your premier wideouts. You're going to play special teams. And so if A.D. Mitchell's the number 2 or Pierce is the number 2, that likely means that third guy will be playing on special teams, which is not something Pierce has done in his first 2 seasons.
I think they were the same class, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was one, but I think this is third year. I can't remember. Do you see the talk around Traylon Burks with the Titans? Remember
He's
him from
also
Arkansas?
playing some special
Yeah,
teams, right?
Is it Brian Callahan? The coach there was like, yeah, he's going to have to learn some special teams.
And injuries have been
okay, man.
a big issue for Burks.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have the same injury issues with Pierce.
No.
So that is something to keep.
Well, it's the
an eye
opposite.
on.
Pierce is playing 99% of the snaps in all these games.
Right. All right, let's hit a morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Well, yeah, let's start with the Colts. It's been a lot of Colts today, but Shane Steichen did meet with the media. Now, we mentioned Daniel Scott being injured. We talked there with Stephen Holder, whether it be corner or safety. That secondary is going to be something that will be watched and talked about often this season for the Colts. And here's Shane Steichen yesterday on what he wants to see from those units.
Just growth, really, more than anything. I think that's all guys, just getting better every day and growing as players. Communication on the back end, going into year 2, year 3 in the system with Gus being here, communication should be pretty darn good over there. So I'm excited about that with all those guys.
All right, so there's Steichen on defense and the secondary. Now let's go to A.D. Mitchell, a guy we're talking about, obviously, in the battle there with Alec Pierce. A.D. Mitchell was asked about playing here just a couple days, a couple practices with Anthony Richardson. Here's what he had to say.
Man, that dude a freak. I tell you that. Like, he like a creative player. Like, he like one of the players that could legit do anything on the field. Like, you talk about just arm strength, crazy arm strength. This man can roll right, throw on the opposite hash to the left. Like, it's a lot of stuff that I ain't seen before. So, you talk about just building chemistry. Like, I've just been excited. Like, every time I step up on the field, I'm like, man, what are we gonna get today? Like, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to be a part of it, and I can't wait to play with it.
I guess this is a topic exiting the draft, so I will, update you on what I've witnessed from A.D. Mitchell in these press conference settings. Sometimes you get guys that, hey, there's a character question, there's an off-the-field question about these guys. And then you see them play out. And again, our interactions are very minimal with them. And you can kind of see why that's there. I don't see any of that with A.D. Mitchell. I don't, it's not like he's an ass or anything like that in these settings. The work ethic, again, just witnessing practice seems to be there. Again, consistent production was certainly an on-field question at Texas. But, the off-the-field stuff and our brief interactions with them, I see none of it.
Well, I mean, between his couple press conferences and now he's made a couple plays and the conversation is actually there, hey, between he and Alec Pierce and overtaking him and everything else, I don't know. And then you look at some of the college stuff that he did, and our guy Stephen Holder, who we just had on, is so high on A.D. Mitchell. I mean, I don't know. If I'm a Colts fan, I think in the last week or so, I don't know. I think I'm pretty excited about A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah, I think there are some reasons
that's fair.
To be intrigued, certainly. Again, consistency for me with where you're at right now through these practice viewings. We'll see if that continues here moving forward. All right, yesterday, baseball-wise, how about the Redlegs? They continue to play good ball. Great pitching from Frankie Montas yesterday in Coors Field, of all places. The Reds win that one. Cubs do beat the lowly Chicago White Sox. College baseball front, UIndy unfortunately saw their run come to an end at the College World Series. They lost both of their games out there. We will have the manager of the Evansville Purple Aces on. That would be Wes Carroll coming up to close out the show today. They will get their Super Regional Cinderella journey underway coming up Friday afternoon. Again, those are best 2 out of 3. They will take on the number 1 team in all the land. That would be Tennessee. And if they're able to take 2 of 3, Evansville, making their first ever Super Regional appearance, would obviously be making their first ever appearance to Omaha for the Baseball World Series. So looking forward to that conversation coming up in a bit.
Dude, their story's nuts. You know, they lost like 13 runs, and they came back and won. They had to rely on a freshman pitcher.
Who's been unbelievable
a freshman pitcher in Evansville. That's fantastic.
14 or 15 guys from the state of Indiana on their team.
Yeah,
Wes Carroll's been there for a while.
It's
so again,
unbelievable. Yeah, he's a lifer there, so cannot wait to talk with him in about an hour. Rest in peace to Parnelli Jones, dying at the age of 90, former Indy 500 champ. Obviously, racing fans know that name, revere that name. He passed away yesterday. And then just quickly, did you see the we all knew this was going to happen, but it's seemingly going to become official in the next few days while he'll actually be on the call for the NBA Finals. J.J. Redick going to be taking the job there with LeBron and the L.A. Lakers. You have a thought on that?
Pretty good life for J.J. Redick, right?
I mean, he started that podcast, got 2 or 3 episodes done, and went right to the Lakers head
Plays great
head
golf
coaching
courses.
job.
Now he's out in L.A.
He's
LeBron,
got it, doesn't he?
I guess his boys with him, by all accounts.
You think? Yeah.
Hope it works out better than Darvin Ham and Frank Vogel and
all the other.
I guess Vogel did win a title, but
I was about to say if you win a title, that's great for you.
Long.
But yeah, you're going to only be there a few years, and you're probably going to get fired, and you're going to be the scapegoat for LeBron James. So JJ Redick must really want to coach Bronny James. That's the discussion that's going around. I have a Benedict Mathern take that I just wanted to throw it out there. We've done a lot of Colts. We'll do that, like you said. Wes Carroll from Evansville Baseball. He'll join us at 9:30. It's a Wednesday. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Introducing the Deep Eddy Vodka Party.
got me excited before the break.
Okay.
Nothing like a tease like that. You said you've got some Benedict Mathurin related material. Did you see where Benedict Mathurin is right now, by the way?
Okay, he's in London, is he not?
Did you see the picture in front of Big Ben?
Big Ben, yeah. The Big Ben clock. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I'd like to go to London. I'd like to go.
Travels.
It's a long flight, though. Oof.
Went there for the Colts, Jags 2016? Yeah,
Did you?
It was great.
Did you have a good time? Did you get to do anything other than work?
Yeah, we did. What was, Trafalgar Square area. What was that pub? Admiralty? JMV will know. That's where he did a show from. So kind of just after the show, we just kind of went around there.
That's awesome.
And Kensington Palace. Ate there on Friday night. It was incredible.
So JMV was there as well?
He was.
You and JMV?
Yeah,
I like
his
that.
His credential didn't work, and so we had to start the radio show without him pregame at Wembley.
That sounds like sports radio.
Matt Taylor, Jim Sorgi, and I had to feast without JMV there for the first hour.
I'm sure you guys were able to make it. Corbin's with us. Mark's out today. That's sports radio right there. You go across the pond and the credential doesn't work. That's exactly
and of course,
what
Wembley,
I needed to hear.
For those that have been, Wembley is a massive venue. I mean, NFL stadiums are obviously huge, but Wembley is bigger than NFL stadiums.
Yeah, it's a big stadium, yeah.
So, yes, to say JMV was lost for a few minutes there would have been an understatement.
Well, here's my Mathurin thing. I've watched this happen in real time. When I started last August on this show with you, one of the main, I would even say if you move Tyrese Halliburton aside, I would say the main conversation piece around the Pacers was Benedict Mathurin, was him taking the next step, him becoming a starter. I mean, I remember early on doing those segments around Benedict Mathurin, and I knew you were a Mathurin guy, right? And you still are, by the way. I think you are, at least. You've mentioned that a couple different times. Okay, so there you go. And the only reason I bring it up is yesterday, we had Tony East on, and Tony East is very high on Andrew Nembhard. I mean, that's one thing that he made apparent in our conversation, the future of Nembhard. He wants to see him on the floor and then to give him a deal sooner rather than later to keep a young player, a relatively inexpensive young player, in the fold. And so we talked about that, and you asked Tony yesterday kind of like the three things he was watching this offseason for the Pacers. And, of course, Pascal Siakam was one. And then Nembhard, I just talked about. He's such a fan, very much sold on Andrew Nembhard. And then he mentioned, hey, what's going to happen here with Obi Toppin, who is a restricted free agent. We know how that could play out here in the next several weeks. And now maybe he is an outlier, but I'm just using this as a jumping off point to a quick discussion. Benedict Mathurin wasn't on his top three. And I'm telling you, a year ago, again, Mathurin was right there at the very top. And so I am wondering if there are people that are souring on Benedict Mathurin at all. I'm wondering if people are, as a people, I mean media and fans and everybody else, I'm wondering if the conversation tone has changed to where last year he was at, near the top or at the top of all of these, hey, what do the Pacers need lists, okay? And now, we have Tony on yesterday. He's not in the top three. And, you have the words from Rick Carlisle last week at the end of the season press conference where, this was not, there's been some, I don't want to say babying, but there's been some public coddling of Benedict Mathurin. We know this. If we would have said something negative about Mathurin, Rick Carlisle would have on those Tuesday conversations, KB. He would have corrected us. They've said publicly that they like, his development on changing his offensive game to fit what we're doing, becoming a better passer, becoming then a better defender. And so I'm just kind of wondering why he is not at the top of people's list, because I still have Mathurin ahead of Andrew Nembhard. I just do. Now, the flip side of this is, if you feel like Mathurin doesn't fit what you're going to do, in other words, if you're going to be more about defense going forward, and he ain't that, if you're telling me that, and then you're telling me he doesn't fit this offensive system that quite literally everybody else that is on this team and I think Jarris Walker would even fit into this mold, is going to or already does fit in to the offensive scheme. I mean, you talk about, hey, if there would ever be a guy that you would move, would it be Matherin? I just bring that up because I'm trying to find, KB, the temperature in the room that it feels like last year he was the hot story, and now I feel like we go into this offseason and he's not as high on the list as he was. He didn't have a great season. He didn't have a bad season. It was probably somewhere in between. So what do we do? Are you recognizing that as well?
Well, I guess I'm putting words in Tony East's mouth, but I think Tony was reacting to my question of, like, what decisions need to be made? Decisions. Siakam, re-sign or not? Nembhard, extension or not? Toppin, re-sign or not?
But you don't have to extend Nembhard right now, right? Don't you have have another year or so?
I think his agent might say otherwise, and we know how player-driven the NBA can be on that. So that's why, I don't think Tony maybe viewed the question as, like, internal development, which is, that's the question with Matherin. Matherin's not going anywhere. Matherin obviously is on your basketball team. And I don't know, maybe injuries naturally put people on the back burner. Maybe people sour. Again, I'm not one of them. I saw Matherin, while maybe the scoring wasn't at the level, I saw him shoot the basketball better. I saw him distribute the basketball better. And I saw his turnover number come down. I would say that checks a lot of boxes for what you want to see in year two. So those all check. Now, he again needs to continue to make strides as a facilitator. He certainly needs to be more locked in on the defensive end of the floor. But no, I'm not one of these at all that, sour or, have forgotten about him. None of that. I have talked often here in the last couple of, I guess it would be last week and a half. I thought the exit interview from Matherin really stood out. Those were Matherin words and comments that I had not heard before. It was the uber confidence, the borderline cockiness, and the level of confidence that he has always had sounds still in there. But the also humility of, hey, I need to do some things differently to fit into what the Pacers are about and what the NBA is about. That needs to happen in my game as well. That is a tough balance to strike, and I hear that from him. Now, again, actions will ultimately be the trump card in it all, but no, I he attacks like no other. I think he takes coaching really well. He wants to be coached. I frankly think Carlisle's as hard on him publicly as he is any player. I think Carlisle talks about him in a much different light than he talks about Halliburton and some other guys. And I think Matherin wants that. The lulls that he has had in his career, they last for like a game or two, and then he drops a 15-point half, and you're like, man,
right?
Things just don't really stay there from him. So, no, I continue to be hot. Now, where's his fit? That all remains to be seen. Nembhard, Matherin, Nesmith. Walk me through that. Who's the two? Who's the three? Is it Nesmith is moving to the bench? Matherin starts at the three. Nembhard's your two. Is now Matherin the wing defender? Okay, how does that go? So those are questions I have. But again, I think to go back to Tony East's point, I think maybe he reacted to my question more of what decisions need to be made on players, whereas Matherin, you don't really have that.
Yeah, I guess my only kickback would be they do have a decision. I mean, is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be a guy that...
Yeah, I guess contractual decision, not to get technical on it. But.
Yeah, at some point here, it's bleep or get off the pot type of thing with him. I don't know. It's interesting to me. I feel like I've watched it in real time. Watch Matherin be the main discussion, one of the main discussions before the season. And after the season, maybe he's not as much. And that's because they made a run without him, and guys like Andrew Nembhard made plays, okay? The shot in game three against the Knicks, guys stepped up when he, unfortunately was not available.
Matherin was too good early, frankly. I mean, he was the first Pacer to be All-NBA first-team rookie since Rick Smits. The Pacers have had a lot of good basketball players.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great and listen, Matherin had a great All-Star weekend. I mean, Halliburton had the All-Star weekend of All-Star weekends, but Matherin was second in my book. He was out there everywhere. Didn't they win an award doing something?
well,
in the skills competition.
Yeah,
I'm just saying
I'm
just saying he was very much a guy that was like. Remember, Draymond Green even had that sound that was like, "Hey,
he's the X factor of the Pacers."
That he's the X factor, and that's. I hate to agree with Draymond Green, but I agree with that. That me and you agree that we like Mather, and I tend to think he or someone like him that can do what he does is more important and is probably the top topic other than Siakam for me this offseason. I guess that's my point.
And again, I guess, Tony, it was more of a contractual reaction. I think Matherin's internal development, fit, how he comes off the injury. I mean, I don't think he's going to be like this, but he suffered a pretty serious shoulder injury, obviously, to end his season. Is he still the crazy attacking force that he was before? That is a question that you would have. But I thought just the biggest bummer to when the injury occurred, you mentioned the All-Star break. He started to, I think, take some real strides post All-Star break, right before the injury. Of you look at some of those nights and it's like, wait a minute, 4 or 5 assists, 1 turnover.
Oh, I agree.
Like that was starting to become a little bit more of a common occurrence.
He had like a 35-point game or something right before he got injured a couple games before.
And while that might not be eye-popping, for Matherin it is. We know he can score. We know he can get to the foul line 10 times during a game. It's more of a, can you make the right pass? Can you fit this offense? So, yes, as much as the him and Jaden Ivey getting into it in the, Rising Stars game, and he becomes the MVP of that, and, again, them winning the skills competition at Lucas Oil the next night, all of that was fine and dandy. But, again, I thought with the Pacers, he was making a stride. And when Rick Carlisle says to us, a week ago Tuesday, we need to go get a star or we need to have a star grow internally, the internal star would probably be Mather.
Well,
I guess,
or Jarris Walker. Yeah, it's one of two guys. It's one of two guys. It's one of those guys.
Tony East might counter and say, no, that would be Nembhard. I think Tony views Nembhard very, very highly.
He does.
I'm more of in the Matherin camp on that. That's where it lies. And again, it sounds like his full clearance will not come until after the Olympics. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like he will be participating with Canada in the Olympics.
Yeah, that's too bad. He'll follow him around, but won't get to play. You'll like this. I'll tease it this way. 5 MLB or minor league players suspended yesterday by MLB. How horrific are they at sports gambling? We'll tell you on the other side. It's a Wednesday here on The Fan.
Today, filing for Social
Well, he's not here to defend himself, so I could probably say this. Andy, you found someone worse at gambling than Mark Dykton?
Oh, wow, I like that. That's a shot. Yeah, did you see?
Well, he just lost a six-pack of beer.
I guess he did. Tucapita Marcano is a player for the Padres, and yesterday the news came down
Sounds like a good dish.
It does, that he is done. Lifetime ban for Marcano. He placed 231 bets, KB, including 25 of those bets with the Pirates when he was on the Pirates and he was on the injured list. Now, I'm bringing this up because he was a terrible gambler. He lost every single one of his parlays involving the Pirates, okay, and won only 4.3% of all of his MLB bets. 4.3%. I mean, that's horrific, okay? I mean,
does he need Max Bowen making his bets? I mean, what's going on? 4.3%?
That's like one of those things they tell you in like high school or college. It's more difficult to make an F in this class than it is an A.
Yeah.
That's basically Marcano. Now, there were 4 other guys. Some of these are minor leaguers that you don't know and I don't know. And I'm just going to list these off, how bad of gamblers these guys were, okay? Andrew Saalfrank bet $445.87 on baseball, okay? That averages out to be about $15 per bet. He had a net loss of $272.64 on MLB bets. Again, Saalfrank got a 1-year suspension for losing a couple $100, making $15 bets on baseball. Michael Kelly bet $99.22 on MLB games, an average of $9.92 per bet. He won only 5 of the MLB game bets that he made. He had a net winning of $28.30. Again, 1-year suspension.
I mean, it's impossible to be this bad.
Jay Groom bet $453.74 on 30 MLB games, an average of about $15.12 per bet. He had a net loss of $433.54. And finally, Jose Rodriguez bet $749.09 on baseball, with $724.09 of that on MLB-related bets. I don't have how he did, but I would imagine it wasn't very good. So these guys lost a small amount of money. One got banned for life, and 4 others got kicked out of the sport for a year. And they all ended up losing $10 to $15 bets, and they ended up just bleeding their FanDuel, DraftKings, or ESPN bet app out.
If I gave you Celtics in 6 games or less, or any other result in the series, Celtics in 7 or Dallas wins the series, which one do you take?
Give me Dallas. Give me the second one, where I get Boston in 7 or Dallas. I don't know. I like the Dallas team. I'm a Luka guy. So
I mean, Irving and Luka late.
I know, and I'm not. Listen, these poor guys. They're like me, sports gambling. God bless them.
That's unbelievable.
It really is. Back to Colts conversation. We'll do it next.
They should ban them just for being bad, not for gambling, for being so bad.
They're so bad. And the numbers. I mean, can you imagine a major leaguer betting $9 on a game and losing his job for a $9.90 bet? Quick break. We'll come back 9 o'clock hour. Colts conversation. We'll do it next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with
Looks like they're having a media availability over at Lucas Oil Stadium here early in the morning, getting a look at the pool for, I should say pools, plural, for the Olympic swim trials that begin a week from Saturday. These shots are awesome.
Oh, yeah, I've been following it this morning. Oh, it's great. It looks great. I'm going to go. My wife swam in high school. We know a couple swimmers that went on.
Nikki Sweeney
there we
in the
go.
pool.
We know a couple people who played it. Swam at big-time institutions in the SEC or Clemson or whatever it may be. So, yeah, I'm all in on this. Plus, I did some radio with Pat Forty. His daughter swam in the Olympics,
right? Yeah,
there at
Brooke.
Stanford. So, I think he's already up here. I may need to reach out to my man. See if he'll come in studio, talk some college whatever with us.
I would love that. We could, do a little multi segment here. Obviously, a little swimming, and then certainly get his thoughts, college sports related. We will have Sarah Meyer from the Sports Corps on tomorrow. She's been a huge spearheader, leader, however you want to describe her, in the logistics behind this event. Again, 2 million gallons of water from the White River, and as we should mention, clean and chlorinated here over the next couple of weeks. The pool, if you look at the pictures of it, it's up on a platform. So they've built this pool up a bit to get the depth necessary for a competition pool here. But kind of picture where the court was for that Saturday night of the All-Star weekend. So in, one of the end zones of Lucas Oil Stadium, you've got the curtain and the temporary seats on one side, and then you have all the main football seats on the other side there. So I think capacity will be around like 30-ish thousand. And this is a huge deal here as we get closer to the Paris Olympics coming up in about a month and a half.
I know we're going to get back to Colts, but can I just give you something just to get it off my chest real quick about this? Because this is a cool thing to be in the city of Indianapolis. We would agree with that, right,
I think
KB?
It's one of the more unique events.
It's a unique
And I don't think people truly realize
it's a big deal.
How big the U.S. swim trials are.
Oh, no, it's a very big deal. I mean, there will be the national media will ascend all these fans and families of all these athletes that are trying to make the Olympics.
This is not the U.S. basketball team where they pick the 12.
No, it's not.
You have to literally earn your spot, and if you have a bad trials, you're out.
Yeah.
Like, this is not all of a sudden where it's like, yeah, about that. We didn't think, Betty Jones from Carlsbad, California deserved it. We're going to put, Sarah Smith on the team. No. That's not how it works.
This is the old tryouts back in middle school when they used to post the names, Corbin, and you looked up there and Andy Sweeney was never up there. And that's why he's in Sports Talk Radio now. I'm just bringing this up. I'm not picking on this guy, but my man Eddie Garrison, the midday show, they put up a poll, and I need to look this up. Can you actually look up the Querying Company poll that they put up yesterday? It would have been, I don't know if it's at the beginning of the show or 1 o'clock hour, about do you want MLS in Indianapolis? And my man Eddie G was like, the sport doesn't do anything for me, so I don't really I don't really want it. And it's the same thing with these trials. Like I'm not a swimmer. A lot of people aren't, but it's awesome for the city, right? I mean, it's awesome for the city if they could do even more of this. And I just wanted to say from yesterday, that's how I feel about the MLS. I haven't been the biggest soccer guy in the world, but, especially the jobs that we're in, give me something else, right? Give me another pro team. Give me another thing that we can talk about and help play the games on the air here on the Fan. So I just brought that up. Like, I don't care about swimming, but this is awesome. I'm not the biggest soccer guy, but MLS coming here was awesome. And if you're going to give me no to MLS, give me something other than soccer sucks. That's kind of what I was doing yesterday. I was reading this on Twitter. I'm like, guys, you've lost your mind. What are we talking about here?
That poll was pretty close to 50-50 when I looked at it yesterday.
I was stunned by it. I'm stunned by it.
Shout out to Kurt Darling from our sister station, WIBC. Really enjoyed him hopping in studio with us yesterday and just, frankly, educating us, similar to what Sarah Meyer is going to do tomorrow when it comes to the U.S. Olympic swim trials. So Kurt did that yesterday in regards to MLS. And that stadium, I guess, expansion pursuits. So if you missed that, that will be up on the podcast. Speaking of Lucas Oil Stadium and I guess splashing into a pool, Andy, word came out yesterday that the Colts attempted, and how you defined attempt is probably what we can get into now. But they at least made a call about Justin Jefferson and the Vikings. Your overall thoughts on what that call might have looked like?
Well, I mean, okay, so I think I want to go back, and this is my fault. I want to go back for a second. We talked about this in the 7 o'clock hour. Do you remember when you asked me if you would do the trade that was similar to Tyreek Hill? When Tyreek Hill was traded from the Chiefs to the Dolphins, it was what, a first rounder, a third rounder, or a second rounder, a couple third rounders? What was it?
A first, a second, 2 fourths, and a sixth.
Okay, and so we talked about maybe moving a pick or two of those up instead of being a fourth rounder. Yeah, you're bumping them to a third or something like this. And obviously, paying $110 mil guaranteed to Justin Jefferson if you did trade for him, and then we know Chris Ballard loves his draft capital, that it's so unlike Ballard. You asked me, would I do it? And even though, and at the time I said no. So I feel like now it's 2 hours later that I've got to sit here, KB, and stew on it, and I'm kind of slapping my own hand. Andy Sweeney, what the hell are you talking about? Of course you trade for Justin Jefferson. Now, what would it have meant for, Michael Pittman Jr., this draft, everything else? You were very quick to say, oh, yeah, I would do it. I think I'm now, as I sit here for the last couple hours, KB, I think I'm now more a little bit on your side. Now, that also gets into the discussion, and I asked a question to you, is this coming out even like good or bad for Ballard? Because it shows that they have tried this past offseason to be aggressive. I would even say to be very aggressive. When you talk about how they wanted to move up in the draft, you talk about the news of Justin Jefferson that we found out yesterday from Adam Schefter. You talk about Danielle Hunter. You talk about L'Jarius Sneed, if you remember him from the Chiefs. He went to the Titans, but, those two had those conversations, and he was a guy you were going to have to give up draft capital and then pay a nice money to at that corner position. It's like one of those, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. He reached out. That's good. I think they really tried to be aggressive here. The flip side is it didn't work out. They didn't land the players, and all that does is, I don't know if frustrates the word, but I guess it is. That's the one I'm going to throw at you. Frustrates a fan base that so badly wants to see their general manager make a big-time move of some kind.
Yeah, and I think in general, where we're at with Ballard now, year 8, it was kind of funny, Stephen Holder asking us, wow, is this really year 8? It's kind of crazy when you get there, is everything Ballard does sucks or everything Ballard does is the right move.
Yeah,
It
you're
just,
right.
And I try my hardest to make sure I evaluate Ballard off individual moves. For example, I am a fan of the Latu pick. I am. I think consistent pressure has been an issue, and this is a guy that walks in the NFL with darn impressive numbers in college and moves in college of being an instant impact guy. And if he can do that for you at an impactful position, that is huge for your football team. At the same time, I strongly disagree with the lack of safety moves he's made here this offseason. In terms of Jefferson, again, as you said, Andy, I would do it. I think it is wise for the Colts to have inquired at any level of this. Now, I'll bring up the same analogy I did in the opening hour of the show. There is an element of you calling the Vikings for Justin Jefferson and me getting out the yellow pages and seeing if Augusta National's phone number is listed and saying, hey, you got it in your room for a single to hook up with some groups today? I'd love to, preferably Twilight Rate. I figure Chris Ballard would probably be a fan of the Twilight Rate more than anything there. So, yes, there is that. But, again, did anyone see Tyreek Hill on the trade block for Kansas City? Did anyone see A.J. Brown on the trade block for Tennessee when those moves occurred? No. So you never and Minnesota is in some sort of awkward situation. What is Minnesota? Are they in it?
I mean,
or are they not?
The joke was Justin Jefferson will help them get from 7 wins to 8 wins. I mean, that was the joke that was going through my mind, right?
Okay, and again, Danielle Hunter now moves to Houston, and Kirk Cousins is in Atlanta, and they got T.J. Hawkinson and Jordan Addison.
Well, are they going to start
Jefferson?
Are they going to start J.J. McCarthy week 1, or is that like
Sam
a week
Darnold
7 thing?
Going to be the start? Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Like, where are they at? They're in a very weird situation. Do the Colts play them this year? By the way, I think they do.
I need to look that up. I mean, they're a middling team.
Yeah. I think the Colts do. Corbin's nodding his head. Yeah, I think the Colts do play them. But nonetheless, I am a fan of looking into these sorts of things because you never know how the other team views their current operation. And I'll go back to the Shane Steichen influence of you look at the past 2 drafts, and if you look at the early picks, I want to say 7 of the 9 early picks have been offensive players. You look at where Steichen came from in Philadelphia. Obviously, he was there when the A.J. Brown trade occurred. And, this falls in line, this sort of idea. And again, idea turning into action is jumping over the Grand Canyon. So getting to the action would fall in line with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, Buffalo making that trade. Miami trading for Tyreek Hill. Again, Philly with Jalen Hurts trading for A.J. Brown and all of those things. So I do have concern, Andy, moving forward of, is this stuff still possible when you extended Pittman for 2 to 3 years, when you extended Grover Stewart for 2 to 3 years, when you did that with Zaire Franklin, when you did that with Kenny Moore? Was this your opportunity? Was this your big window?
See, that's
a concern to me.
That's how I feel. I asked Steven that when he was on with us in the 8 o'clock hour, and he's like, they could make some moves, but as far as a big move, it's probably not going to happen for a couple seasons.
Because the reason I say that is the Richardson, if you would have made this move for Jefferson, that would have happened after Anthony Richardson's first season in the NFL.
They would have grown up together like perfectly, right?
And if you look at Diggs with Allen, Tyreek with Tua, A.J. Brown with Jalen Hurts, I believe all of those occurred at least after the second season. I could be off on that, but for the most part, you were at least another year deeper into that. Again, financially, the Colts are going to be in a different state. They aren't going to be, totally handcuffed moving forward, but they are going to be a different state. So, again, I'm not one that looks at this and says, this is Ballard having an intern make the phone call and he doesn't even care. I think there was legit inquiry, just like there was legit inquiry in the draft to try and move up into the top 10. So, what does this do for you moving forward of, do we see something similar? And maybe A.D. Mitchell will have an unbelievable rookie season and will change your overall thinking on that moving forward. But if he doesn't, when do we see this move? Because I am such a believer, you have to do something like this. Jefferson is a earthquake type of move. I'm not saying necessarily that level, but you need to do something of note to make sure Anthony Richardson walks into the kitchen and his ingredients are St. Elmo and not McDonald's.
And that's one reason why I love that A.D. Mitchell, I'll get back to J.J. here in a second, I love that A.D. Mitchell is pushing Alec Pierce. I mean, last year, Alec Pierce played 100% of the snaps in games and got a couple targets, and we know that he couldn't get the ball deep because of Minshew, but there's someone there now that has a different skill set. Quickly, yesterday, did you say as Joel A. Erickson asked Steichen about this? Here's what... Go ahead.
I don't hear no in this answer.
Here's what
Did you hear no in it?
I didn't hear it. Yeah, I didn't hear it. Here's what Steichen had to say about Justin Jefferson.
He's a good player. I brought probably 31 other teams before I tried to trade for Justin Jefferson, but I got no comment on that. Yeah.
The old no comment. You got a nervous laugh and a no comment. Yeah, of course they reach out. They're sitting there. If you remember a few, weeks ago, months ago, the thought was that maybe this contract was not going to happen, right? I mean, Justin Jefferson was frustrated. He wanted this contract. And go back to what you mentioned 5 minutes ago. What are the Minnesota Vikings? The thought around the NFL was, instead of giving over $100 million of guaranteed money to Justin Jefferson, you can use that money and spread that out to many different positions when you're a non-playoff team who is very much rebuilding. Of course, I keep saying flip side. The flip side is, they now have a quarterback who is on a rookie deal. I'm not sure what Darnold's being paid. I would imagine it's not massive money. And then J.J. McCarthy, if he obviously ends up playing, and he will at some point, starting the majority of these games, he will be on that first-round rookie deal. Let me ask you something. If they'd have made the move for Jefferson, then Pittman plays under the tag this year. Let's play this out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you went down this path, because back when we debated the franchise tag for Michael Pittman Jr., I said to you I would wait on an extension until early May. And the reason around that is for these sorts of things to have the ability to entertain them. And why I said early May was, remember when A.J. Brown was traded?
It was draft time, was it not?
The night of the draft.
Yeah, it was the night of the draft.
The night of round 1. So, look at the NFL. Have we seen any notable moves in the NFL over the last month? No. You end that pretty much when the draft occurs.
Right.
Because obviously first-round picks are very valuable. So, That's why I would have paused on Pittman. And if for some reason you made a trade for Jefferson, yes, Andy, I think you would have played out Pittman on the tag, which bring in drama there. And Cincinnati's dealing with some of that.
Sure.
With T. Higgins right now and the Jamar Chase extension that is looming.
Yeah, but Pittman would have shown up. He would have been the opposite of Justin Jefferson.
Sure.
Week 1.
And again, I'm talking about a great problem to have for the Colts. And again, this gets into, okay, does that mean obviously Grover Stewart's not here? Does that mean Kenny Moore's not here? Yes, something probably would have played out along those lines. But if you look at the finances, and again, we did this exercise a little bit earlier in the show, but I think it's worth doing again. Jordan Jefferson. That was the LSU quarterback, wasn't it, at one point?
It was Jordan Jefferson. I remember he was famous. He won a bunch of games, but he also, I remember, was always at the club with his sunglasses on. Oh. That's what I remember about Jordan Jefferson.
Did you see Kevin Durant practicing his jumper in the club?
I did see
over the weekend.
I did see that.
I love that. Ball is life, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The opposite of my weekend, yes.
Yeah, I would say, me entertaining any clubs at this stage of my life is probably done. $35 million annually, okay, for Jefferson, right? The guarantee was huge, but let's just play out the annual value. That's $12 million more than Michael Pittman Jr. The Colts are sitting on $26 million right now. So $12 million more is not a substantial amount when you look at the cap space. The substantial amount is what you would have to give up for Justin Jefferson. And again, the trade for Tyreek Hill, as we mentioned, was a first, a second, 2 fourths, and a sixth. Let's take the 2 fourth-round picks. Let's bump both of them up to third-rounders to play out this exercise because Jefferson is younger and doesn't have maybe the off-the-field stuff that Tyreek has. So basically, you would be sending the Vikings Laiatu Latu, A.D. Mitchell, Matt Gonzalez, a 2025 third-rounder, and Jalen Simpson or Micah Abraham.
Oh, man. I know. It's a lot of players. It's a lot of potentially good players. Oh, the fan base would have loved it. Oh, they would have loved it.
I think why you love it is direct, instant support for your young rookie quarterback.
And it's greatness. And it's greatness.
And
I mean, Jefferson's great.
Arguably the best player in the NFL, not playing quarterback. And also, I think what is really, really important is it gives your young QB, I think, a jolt of confidence at some point. And this is what Buffalo is now encountering, what Philly will eventually get to, and what Miami will eventually get to. At some point, you can't make these moves. These are calls that it would be a waste of time to even pick up the phone because you don't have the resources, whether it be draft pick or money, to be able to do this stuff. So at some point, it's got to flip, Andy. You're paying Richardson, Justin Jefferson type money times 10. Not times 10, but more than that. You need him to rise the ship, to be the one that's kind of patching up other holes on your roster. That there will be a time and place for that. Right now is not that. So this is the time to try and even do this stuff.
Two things. It almost, and we haven't talked too much about this, when the Jordan Jefferson, now you got me saying it, Justin Jefferson.
I feel like I do it all the time.
Jordan Jefferson was a good player at LSU, okay? Les Miles era LSU, where all sorts of crazy things. Corbin, look it up sometime. With Justin Jefferson, so that doesn't happen. And then you would imagine the pivot when all this is going on is then they sign Michael Pittman Jr. And even though they didn't wait, perhaps as long as we had said, hey, you could wait, it ended up being really good timing because not waiting on Pittman, you got Pittman signed before Nico Collins. But there's been 3 or 4 guys that have been signed here to new deals, and there are going to be another guy or two that are signed. I mean, what happens with a guy like Deebo Samuel, eventually T. Higgins? Both of those guys are going to end up probably making more money. Deebo already does than Michael Pittman Jr. So I think this contract, the striking out, if you will, not being able to get Jefferson, okay, move that aside, or any other big-name wide receiver if there was ever one out there. They did get a deal that seemingly is very team-friendly for Michael Pittman Jr. The other question I have, and we'll get to a check down here in a second, if they would have added Jefferson, let's say they do, okay, let's say that would have happened. what does that do to the betting public? I mean, right now I'm just looking at a couple different sports books. The Colts are right now, the Colts odds are third in the AFC South at plus 330. They're behind Houston and they're behind Jacksonville in the AFC South. And if you just go by, to win the Super Bowl, they're 21st. I'm looking at FanDuel. They're 21st in the NFL at plus 5,500. That's around teams like Seattle and Tampa Bay to win the Super Bowl. I wonder what that would have done to all of those odds. Like, are they the favorite in the South? Do they move up from being in the early 20s in Super Bowl odds to 13th, to 15th, or something like that? I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't know the answer to any of that. The analysis is probably you got to keep Anthony Richardson healthy and upright and everything else. But I wonder what that would have done being the biggest move in the NFL since A.J. Brown, 3 seasons ago?
In 20 minutes, the Cinderella story of the NCAA baseball tournament. That is Evansville. Their manager, Wes Carroll, who's been there for a long time, a ton of Indiana guys. Just an unbelievable story. They're super regional again, going to get underway Friday afternoon. He's going to join us in 20. Wanted to get to this from Royce because I think it's a good point. Royce goes, if Richardson stays healthy and is all rookie, he's talking about last year, of course, I could see making a splash to get Jefferson and giving up all that capital. But since he didn't, there's no way you can make that move based on Richardson's unstable health.
I like that, but the Colts don't feel that way. The Colts feel like they absolutely have a fastball with Anthony Richardson that people haven't seen, right? 15% of the snaps last year, whatever it was. I mean, don't you feel that way? Isn't that the analysis around the Colts is, no, we have Anthony Richardson, and if he's healthy, we are going to unleash something on the NFL.
It is confusing to me, to be honest with you, Andy, that as much as they attempted a Danielle Hunter, made calls about going in the top 10, made a call to Augusta National for Justin Jefferson, as much as they did that, what else did they do? They shot for the moon, but now they're just sitting in beach chairs, near NASA in Florida, being like, "Yeah, we're not even going to attempt."
Yeah, but isn't that the problem with the Colts fan? The Colts fan may not be didn't even want to hear this news yesterday.
Like, I want a little bit more of a happy medium. Like, get me, again, if that is whatever, if you're, home run analogy, grand slam analogy. Can you bunt and get on base? Can you?
You're saying he's Adam Dunn? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, literally, Adam Dunn's like the analogy I feel like I commonly use. But
what about Stanton? That's probably a more recent example. Giancarlo Stanton
just have a great month of May.
Oh, dude, he went from in 5 weeks. He went from 2 home runs to 22.
Can you slap one to right field for me here?
a little Sinai single.
Yeah, something along those lines there. I would have liked to have seen, but. Nonetheless, all right, 4-pack of tickets. We're giving away to the U.S. Swim Trials. Give us a call for the pop quiz, 317-239-1070. Again, pictures from Lucas Oil Stadium this morning. Really, really, really cool event here coming up starting a week from Saturday. And then Wes Carroll going to join us in about 20. Before all of that, let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown. Omaha! On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, we've done it all morning. Let's get you some of this cold sound from mandatory mini camp yesterday. We'll have some, I would imagine, tomorrow as well. Shane Steichen meeting with the media. A lot's been made of Anthony Richardson, year number 2 for the high-priced quarterback. Here's what Steichen said that he's seen with AR thus far.
It's really excitement, coming off that shoulder injury and the way he's attacked his rehab and going into all these offseason program deals and practice and just the way he's been in meetings around the building, around with the guys, taking ownership in everything he does, especially in walkthroughs, making sure we're wired up in there. He's been tremendous, so really looking forward to the season with him.
The other thing we've talked about today, you look at wide receivers, A.D. Mitchell making a couple big plays, had a couple red zone touchdowns. Yesterday's made a couple plays here in the last week that you kind of raise your eyebrows at. Alec Pierce knows that A.D. Mitchell is there to take his job, and Pierce was asked about competing with Mitchell.
Yeah, just work every day, learn from each other, learn from the other receivers, and just trying to become better players, all of us, because, it's about the high tides raise all ships. You're going to get better from your competition. So that competitive spirit, that's what you got to work on.
I've got an article up, 1075thefan.com, recapping day 1 of minicamp. We'll do the same here coming up tomorrow and Thursday. Major League Baseball last night. No one wants to play the Reds. No hotter team in baseball.
You damn right.
now. Great pitching from Frankie Montas in Coors Field. You don't really see that too often. The Cubs shockingly beat whatever you would call the White Sox. And that one, other collegiate baseball news. Again, we'll have Evansville manager Wes Carroll on in 20. Unfortunately, Indy's magical run came to a close as they lost their first 2 games in the College World Series, and the Indianapolis Indians allowed 5 field goals yesterday to Columbus.
It's a lot of runs, man.
They lost.
Well, maybe it was 2 touchdowns, 1 an extra point, and a little 2-point conversion in there.
No,
you know?
now you're getting technical
know.
on
that. Yeah, I am. Rest in peace to Parnelli Jones, passing away yesterday at the age of 90, former Indy 500 champ. I know many thoughtful pieces have been up about his life over the last 12 to 15 hours. Again, dead at the age of 90. And it looks like J.J. Redick is going to be the next head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. Does that move the needle for Kevin Bowen at all? A move that we've known was probably going to happen for the last month.
Yes, selfishly, I'd rather listen to Redick's podcast than have him coach the Lakers.
You were a fan of the podcast,
yeah,
were you not?
Definitely.
Why can't the podcast keep going?
I guess it can, to your point, but the unfiltered nature to it probably is going to lose a little bit on that. And unfortunately, Novak Djokovic having to bow out of the French Open after winning a thrilling 5-setter. Torn meniscus. So he has to withdraw. That means for the first time since 2004, the French Open will not have the Joker, Nadal, or Federer in the quarterfinals. Kind of crazy to think about. Potentially an era coming to an end with the big 3.
All right, pop quiz coming up next. 239-1070. Pop quiz. We'll do it next here on The Fan on this Wednesday.
The new taste of KFC deals.
All right, about 10 minutes. Wes Carroll, the manager of the Evansville baseball team and their Cinderella story, going to join us. So looking forward to that conversation as they get their super regional underway Friday. Again, they got to win 2 of 3 from the number 1 team in the land to keep that Cinderella story going to Omaha. So we'll have him join us in about 10 minutes. Again, 4-pack of tickets to the U.S. Swim Trials. No matter what happens here on the pop quiz, it is substitute teacher week on the pop quiz, so that means the quizzes are easier. Although, Andy, I feel like your questions are kind of tough.
Are mine difficult? I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess they are. Well, maybe Scotty messaged me. He said, hey, listen, don't let Corbin and Mark and KB denigrate what I built
who
over
the hell
the years.
knows number 2? We're going to need a soccer enthusiast there.
Well, you know who knows it? Jimmy Cook knows it. I bet he knows it. It's multiple choice.
Give us a number 1 through 8.
Let's go caller number 4, Corbin. Who do we have? Caller number 4.
The greatest name I've ever heard.
Okay.
Mr. Bear.
Mr. Bear, good morning. How are you?
Dear Lord.
Good morning, fellas. How's it going?
Mr. Bear, is this you?
This is he.
Is your last name Bear? Where does this come from?
Just a nickname, fellas. Just a nickname. Don't think too much about it.
Okay, well.
Okay, fair enough.
We will not. We hope your thinking is alive and well for this pop quiz, though. Mr. Bear, congrats on the swim trial. He strikes me as someone that might be jumping into the pool there.
I'd love to see that. Man jumps into, they track the ticket down. Where did he get those? He got those jackasses at the fan. All right, let's do this. Scotty's not here, so these are not 1930s and 1940s baseball. But KB thinks they're kind of hard, so let's start here. Now, we've talked a lot today about Alec Pierce. This past season, Pierce finally went over the 100-yard mark in a game, and it was a win earlier this year. Over which team? Which team did Pierce have 100 receiving yards against this season? Steelers, Rams, Titans, or Raiders?
We'll go with the Rams. They've got the worst secondary of that group, probably.
Was this the game Richardson got hurt? Is that why I don't remember it at all? Or
Yeah,
is that
I believe it was a late, long touchdown that got him up over the 100 yards. Otherwise, it was going to be 2 catches for 40 yards.
Mr. Bear, you said Rams?
That's correct.
You want to try again? Remember, it was a win. They actually won the game. Steelers, Titans, Raiders.
We'll go Raiders.
Get Mr. Bear out of hibernation here early. We've talked a lot this week about Indy and the MLS, so the question is, which team has won the most MLS championships? The Columbus Crew, the LA Galaxy, Sporting KC, or DC United?
Oh, boy. Let's go with the Columbus Crew.
Question, at least it wasn't 1930s baseball, Scotty. Question number 3, Justin Jefferson's monster deal with the Vikings over the weekend made him the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Who is currently the second highest paid wide receiver in the NFL? Is it Amon-Ra St. Brown, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, or A.J. Brown?
A.J. Brown.
All right, number 4 here. Caitlin Clark leads the Fever, Mr. Bear, with 15.6 points per game. Who is second on the team in scoring at 15.1 per game? Is it Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, Nalissa Smith, or Grace Berger?
Oh, boy. Let's go Nalissa Smith. Boston's been a disappearing act thus far, in my opinion.
I would agree.
I like that
I don't
analysis.
know if Grace Berger scored 15 points all year, to be honest with you.
None of them though come to her aid when people tackle her on the
You're
court.
damn right
Correct.
they don't.
Correct.
You're damn
Reminiscent
right.
of Nick Foles convulsing on the field at MetLife Stadium.
Last one, I shouldn't laugh at that. Last one.
Your Giants did that.
It was Kayvon Thibodeau. Who leads IndyCar point standings? Who leads in the IndyCar point standings? Is it Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, Alex Palou, Alexander Rossi?
Alex Palou.
Well, as we said, some hibernation, easy for me to say, from Mr. Bear on that one.
Stay on hold, Mr. Bear. You get the tickets.
We go 1 for 5?
You're not getting the oil change. Yeah, he got one right. He got 8. He got number 3, A.J. Brown, the second highest paid wide receiver in the
For
NFL.
now, right?
Yeah, for now.
It's
Yeah,
like
I'm sure that
CeeDee
will
Lamb,
change.
Jamar Chase will take that.
We'll see what happens with CeeDee Lamb. Question number 1 was Alec Pierce. Which team did he go over 100 yards last year in a win? That was the Tennessee Titans Week 6. He had 3 catches, 100 yards, and the touchdown. Answer to number 2. It's actually LA Galaxy have won the most
Lord
MLS
Beckham,
championships. Right? Yes, there you go. DC United was actually number 2. Who's second on the Fever in scoring at 15.1 points per game? That was Kelsey Mitchell. And Scott Dixon, the vet himself, leads IndyCar point standings.
Yeah,
How about that?
Big jump of Alex Palou with what happened there in Detroit. Again, Road America, no rest at all for IndyCar here. Road America coming up Sunday around 3 o'clock. I've heard good things about people that have made the trip up there for that race. I think it's a 5-hour drive from here, a ton of camping grounds around Elkhart Lake.
So the opposite of Detroit this past weekend, where
yes,
everyone
I would
complained
say the
about
opposite.
it. Yeah, that's what I
know.
figured.
It's like the look people gave me when they're like, "Hey, where's Andy at?" I'm like, "Oh, music festival in Detroit," and they all looked at me cross-eyed.
I know. Me and Jake were there. He saw a bunch of Moss, and I saw a bunch of heavy metal bands. So it was a much different time. Let's take a break on the other end. West Carroll, Evansville baseball in the Super Regional beginning this weekend in Knoxville. We'll talk with their head coach. We'll do it next here on this Wednesday. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Today, filing for Social Security isn't just about your benefits. No way. This decision could also have a huge impact on your taxes, your IRA and 401k withdrawals, even your Medicare premiums. And if you don't consider these things when you file for your benefits, it could needlessly cost you a small fortune. Learn how you could wring every nickel out of your benefits with a free Social Security analysis from Bill Demery, your retirement guy, right here in Indy. If you've saved more than $200,000 for retirement and have not filed for Social Security, schedule your free analysis now by calling 317-680-1770. Bill will outline all of your options that could help you wring every nickel out of your benefits. Get your free analysis now by calling 317-680-1770. That's 317-680-1770.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. We blinked and 2024 is already halfway over. Pretty incredible. What's something that you've done this year you're proud of? Keep up the good work with a moment every week to hit pause, set intentions, and reset in therapy. BetterHelp offers affordable online therapy on a flexible schedule.
working on Monday, but the Evansville Purple Aces, led by manager Wes Carroll, put a lot of people quiet in that place. And speaking of Coach Carroll, he joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline. Wes, congrats. Good morning to you, and appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. And hearing the Purple Aces fight song, what a touch. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me on just to kind of share our story a little bit and just the remarkable run that we're on.
If you don't mind, Coach, I actually want to play a clip from Mark Schallenberger after your guys' historic win on Monday. When I saw this across social media, it summed up everything I love, frankly, about college athletics, which, could lead to a whole different conversation. But I want to make sure our audience hears this. And again, this is your star player on Monday afternoon describing what it's been like for the program over the last 5 years.
No, it won't sink in until I hang up the cleats, if I'm being honest. But just for the fact that I committed to this school in the winter of 2018, December-ish of 2018, and they were going into the 2019 season. And so the last season on record when I committed to come to the school was 12-38, 3-18 in the Valley, which is obviously a far cry from us going to a super regional. So that's 5 years of work. That's 5 years of dedication. That's 5 years of seniors sticking it out, knowing that it's getting better and that they just keep putting in their little part. It's going to keep getting better. So it's a group of 11 seniors. It's a group of young guys who are contributing to what we've already built. So for it to culminate I've been saying, for it to culminate in a regional is awesome. For it to culminate in a super regional is unbelievable. And just the idea that we even have a chance to go to Omaha is unbelievable. So we're going to keep playing the exact free type of baseball that we've been playing, and maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but we're going to have a whole lot of fun with it.
Coach, you were sitting up there on the table when he said that. When you heard those comments, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, extremely emotional, just because of the impact not only the group of men have made, but him personally. It's been an amazing journey with Mark Schallenberger and his development as a person as well. And just when he starts saying those things, it puts it into perspective. Just all the hard work and so many people behind the scenes in our athletic department and supporters that put us in a position to start getting better year in, year out, and put ourselves in a position where we can start recruiting really good prospective student athletes that can compete at this level. And so just it hit my feels pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you. Whenever you have players talking about just the overall perspective of the program currently, it's truly an amazing feeling and so much love within our program.
Coach, and congratulations. Wes Carroll joining us as Evansville gets ready super regional there in Knoxville. I'll ask about Tennessee here in a second, but you mentioned that clip there, free baseball. Is that how you guys view this? Last weekend, you weren't worried about the atmosphere. You overcame it, quite frankly, and won. You know it's going to be crazy this weekend. And I don't think you guys view it as house money. But what does he mean, free baseball? How did that begin with you guys, and how have you kept that going this season, I guess?
I think he articulated the day before pretty well also. Just this fact of that, we've had a successful season. We feel very comfortable and confident with what we've been able to accomplish, whereas our opponents, they still have, higher expectations because they've kind of been there before. As we navigate through uncharted waters as a program, we're going to play loose, free, with our hair on fire, and wear this Aces script across our chest with pride, and we're going to leave it out there on the field. And also, we have a talented club. It's nice to be able to have this, free spirit, this house money type of mentality. But when you have that combination with talented baseball players, that's when magic can happen. And we're hopeful for some magic again this weekend.
Boy, they certainly produced some down in Greenville, South Carolina over the weekend. Wes Carroll's bunch of the Evansville Purple Aces taking 2 home games from East Carolina, winning that regional, and again, silencing that crowd Monday afternoon. Coach, I'm sitting there watching it. The fifth inning, I had a hair transplant back in the fall. The fifth inning, I thought I was going to need another one watching you guys in that fifth. But then in the sixth, 3-run homer and your bullpen the rest of the way. What did that resilience in that environment show you about your team?
Yes, we just needed to minimize. We just needed 3 runs or less in that inning. If that gets up to 5 or 6 runs, then we'll put ourselves in a bad position. However, with our offense, and we knew we earned the right to have East Carolina beat us twice. And we knew on the back end of those 18 innings we were going to be able to get some pictures with our offense the way it is. And, that inning that we followed up with, Mark Schallenberger, it's a big 3-run home run against a really talented left-handed pitcher in Root. However, Root threw a lot of innings on Friday, and he was in his 4th inning on Monday. So we kind of knew we could grind it out, so to speak, if our pitching just gave us a chance and kept the game close. And that's what we did there. We only gave up 3 runs in that inning, and that was a crazy inning, and I lost all my hair, like you just said, in that inning as well. But our pitchers did an unbelievable job of just minimizing and really holding off a talented ECU offense.
When you, I think it was on the headset right after the game ended on the field there, you guys were celebrating, obviously, and you mentioned to the ESPN announcers that this program was in a dark place in 2017. For those that haven't followed your program religiously, can you talk about where you guys were at then and how it's gotten to this point?
Yeah, that's an outstanding question. I took over in 08, 09, and we had some success early, and then kind of in the middle teens after we plateaued with Kyle Freeland in 2014 and Kevin Kaczmarski in 2015. Our facilities just really deteriorated, and it was a challenge to recruit prospective student athletes here. Our playing surface was in really bad shape, and we just kind of went to work. We did. After having a 12-win season, which this program doesn't deserve in any way, shape, or form, I went to work with a lot of people within this athletic department that believed in my vision and a new direction within our program from a standpoint of getting the facility upgrades and really having the support of the community. And over the last 5 or 6 years, what we've been able to do with our playing surface, our indoor facility, our locker room, and then now we just announced an enormous gift from Kyle Freeland for a new the Freeland Clubhouse, a new locker room, coaches' offices area. So it's just exciting times within our program. And, it was tough. It was challenging sitting there, at a midweek game back in 2017 playing UT Martin. We got 10 people in the stands and we're down by 12 runs. It was a very dark place. So that's what makes this so special. When you have moments like this and you can go to work and you start building and you surround yourself with great people, and we were kind of seeing some special things happen. So that's kind of a snapshot of just what overall, what I mean by being in a dark place is you think about all those challenging times that you've gone through, and whenever you have a success like what we just had this past Monday, it makes it feel so much better.
You got to sit back and be amazed a little bit, don't you, Coach?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I'm very fortunate. I've had so many people that just have stuck together. And, part of that clip that Mark Schallenberger was talking about is college athletics is changing drastically with the transfer portal and NIL money. And I've just really struck gold with this group as they stuck together. They believed in this place. They believed in one another, and they stayed. I have a feeling if you go back a couple of years, I got about 5 or 6 guys that could be playing on a Power 5. And so it's just really unique to be able to have that experience with them. And that's why they mean so much to me. And they're accomplishing some great things together, and they're making core memories that'll be with them for a lifetime.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Wes Carroll with us, Evansville baseball. They get ready for Tennessee this weekend. Let's talk about the Vols. We know how good they are. Help us break them down, and how are you guys, this weekend? How can you go in and not only stay in these games, but win a couple and move on?
Well, they are the number 1 ranked team in the country, and their roster, talent-wise, top to bottom, is probably one of the most talented roster I think college baseball's seen in the last couple of years. Really reminds me back in the mid-'90s, the old Wichita State Shocker days, where they just play with an edge and a significant amount of talent. We're just going to have a slow heartbeat through each and every situation because we thought ECU crowd was rowdy and a hostile environment. We know we're going into a UT place that Coach Vitello has done an unbelievable job of creating a culture there to win. And so we're going to go in, play with our hair on fire, represent the University of Evansville, and have Ace's script across our chest with pride, and let it all hang out, let it all fly, and play with a lot of flair and personality that we have on our team. The main thing is we're going to score runs. We're just going to have to score runs because they are the most talented offense in the country, and we're going to have to go in there and bang with them.
Coach, we'll end with this, and really appreciate your time on this Wednesday morning. Good amount of Indiana flavor across your roster. Obviously, we're up here in Indy. Can you speak to some of the Indiana talent? I want to say over a dozen guys on your team from the state of Indiana.
Yeah, within the Midwest and the 150-mile radius has really just always been the backbone of our program. We provide an unbelievable education here at the University of Evansville, matched up with big boy D1 baseball, I say, and we're just fortunate to try to keep all those close local players to come, because when they come and experience what we have in their backyard, they stay. And whenever you stay a place, you can develop, and then you can be the best version of yourself on a baseball field. And so we really try to stay within this Midwest the best we can. We've been very fortunate to go up into Canada a little bit and get some players out of there that have come down here and really fit well. So it's just unique to be able to have Indiana high school kids, because of how well the high school organization is ran, that they get developed by really talented high school coaches, and that's so important in this day and age. And so we're just very fortunate to have local talent, guys that bleed purple and wear Ace of Script across their chests.
It is a hell of a story. They are Cinderella right now. They'll try to continue that all the way to Omaha. First pitch Friday, 3 o'clock. That's ESPN2. We know Saturday will be an earlier start time, 11 a.m., also on the Deuce, and we'll see if Sunday is needed or not. Coach, can't thank you enough. I know you're super busy. Safe travels down there to Knoxville. Make that crowd quiet, and hopefully we'll be talking to you on your way to Omaha.
I really appreciate it. What a time to be alive, and go Aces.
I love it. Wes Carroll right there.
That's what I'm talking about.
Liquors Hotline. Corbin, you played the fight song. We can hop on the train. Andy, I said it to you on Tuesday. I loved watching that Monday.
Oh, college baseball is fun, man. It's an environment.
It was a great, great game. Again, they take 2 from East Carolina, and it'll be quite the story if they can do that with Tennessee coming up on Friday.
They are obviously the Cinderella. They're one of the big stories with what is left right now in college baseball.
The only 4 seed to advance.
Next weekend, they would be the story.
Right.
I mean, you beat Tennessee, you suddenly become the story. So good for him. We'll have that interview with Wes Carroll up on the Podcast Center, 1075thefan.com. We're done. Jake and Jimmy at noon, JMV at 3. Everyone have a good afternoon right here on The Fan.
If you're talking about it,
Caitlin Clark and the treatment she's getting.